If you're in business and you want to actually know what it takes to go from an idea to 1.5 million customers, then this episode is exactly what you want to watch. Because one of the things that I love about the Success Explained podcast is that I get a chance to hang out with friends, people that I respect, people who have done wonderful things. And today we're joined by a friend who's built multiple highly successful companies. His last one did hundreds of millions in annual recurring revenue with over 1.5 million customers across more than 150 countries. And he did it by figuring out the few things that stop most entrepreneurs from scaling: the cash flow pressure, the hiring mistakes, the culture breakdowns, how to handle customer expectations, all the stuff that kind of kills momentum in most companies. And he did it while taking care of his team and his customers and his investors, and while growing a strong family. And although I'm totally sure that there were times of insanity and frustration and other things that go hand in hand with growing a business, he's definitely one of the calmer people that I know. So I have a whole lot to learn from him on that front. And today we're going to dig into what it looks like from the inside, building, growing, and selling a company at that level. So Jason, man, I'm so glad you're here with me, brother. And I'm kind of looking forward to peeking behind the curtain and seeing how you built your last company, which is WP Engine, and what life is like after you have an exit like that.
Well, thanks. I love this because so many things, whether it's a podcast or writing or whatever, is about either 0 to 1, or maybe it's like stories of what Ford did when he was building stuff, which are all interesting. But what's really rare is to talk about the scaling phase. And it makes sense that it's rare because almost no one's there, right? Few companies do scale, or even need to. That's not a value judgment. Like, most don't need to either, right? But most don't. And then those that do, you're not there that long. Like, WP Engine right now is 16 years old. Now, how much of that would you say is a high, scaling phase? I'm not sure. But the point is, like, however old it gets, like, that scaling phase would have taken that 5, 8, maybe you could say 10 years, probably more like 7. And that's it. So there's not many and it doesn't last long. So I guess it's not a good market. But one of the things that's great about both you and I is that we care about sort of quality over quantity, right? Like, you only have a few clients, you work really well with them, et cetera. I only write for people that want to read, like, in-depth, long-form stuff, not tweets. Well, that's not very many people, but the ones that do appreciate, if it's really thoughtful and worth their time, then they appreciate it. So it's kind of the same thing. I just prefer that. So I like talking about scale, even if it's not, marketable as marketable as, writing about 0 to 1 or doing a biopic on somebody. And I agree, and thanks for that intro, because I agree with what you said about these different, of course, challenges that you have, of course, because in scale, of course, there's gonna be challenges of process and people and organization and communication and technology. Like, of course, how could there not be? It's hard, but how can those not be the kinds of categories? And then so I really like that. And then the only thing I would say is, I would never call it a family. But what's interesting is our employees often do. And I think that's actually ideal. The reason I wouldn't call it a family is because you don't pick who's in your family. You live with them, or I guess not, or something, but, like, you don't select that. I guess you select who you marry, but, your extended family is not your choice. But when you build an organization, of course it's your choice. You need to pick the right team, and that changes over time. And one of the hard things about scaling, I know is sometimes the people that were right at first are no longer right, or the company grows faster than they do, or all of that, and also they're not willing to take on a role that's appropriate, given that the company's scaling faster than they can sort of do from the title they used to have. So it's just good examples of, like, hey, when you field a team, if you're not doing your job on the field, that doesn't mean you're just off the team. Maybe you're on a bench a little bit. Maybe we see if you can improve. Maybe there's a different position on the team where you're strong again. But what we can't have is people who are reliably in a role that they can't do, and we need someone on the team to do that role. That's not gonna work, and it's not good for that person either to be struggling and failing in that role. So in that sense, like, there's compassion. Like, you don't do your job, you're off the team. That's the Amazon way, that's the old Microsoft way, so that's certainly a culture. That's fine. That's not our culture. But so it's a culture of compassion, but you can't just not fail to do your job forever, and that's just okay. That's a family. So if we're acting like a team in terms of holding people responsible and or accountable and, making sure the right people are in the right roles, blah, 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 all that usual stuff people say. But what they feel is that it's like a family because that's how they feel they're being treated, respected, even if people have to leave, like, how is that work? Under what circumstances? What are we doing afterwards to help them? Like, what does that actually look like? Um, so if everyone, including the people who leave or the people who stay, feel like it's a family, that means we are being compassionate and doing the right thing by humans while also realizing it's a team. So that's just it's a long but specific way of saying why I say team, and I'm glad when someone else feels it's a family in the sense that they're feeling like they're being treated well as a human. I think is what they mean by that.
Yeah, and just a point of just point on that. When I was talking about that, I was talking about your family,
Oh,
not
my
your
actual
team
family.
calling themselves
Oh,
family.
you're right.
So it's amazing. Like, and by the way, I before we started shooting today, you and I had a conversation, and I was talking to you about how every company inside of my portfolio at this point has used or is using WP Engine, and for I would guess close at least 8 years, maybe a decade for most of the companies. And one of the things that caught my attention, it was obviously my tech guy who forced me to make the change and come over to WP Engine because we weren't, we were a hardcore just plain HTML company. I mean, it's very difficult to get me to make any technical change because I don't understand it. So
And you don't
my
see a
tech guy drives
and
it.
you don't understand, you don't see a particular benefit, like, if it's the same website, but it's on WordPress, I mean, who cares? It would
Yeah.
only make sense if there was some huge benefit, and maybe there is, but yeah. The benefit is that your tech guy is now happy, which is that's pretty good.
That was the only benefit. And it was a big benefit because,
Yeah,
number 1, he moves much faster. Number 2,
yeah,
keeping him happy keeps me happy. Like
yeah.
otherwise he complains too much. But, but one of the things that pulled me personally over was the way you talk about your team on your website.
Mhm.
From the early days, I know
Yeah,
you've upgraded your website on a regular basis, but
sure.
from the early days, you've always been a team-focused company.
Yeah, always, yeah.
Which I mean, if you go to your website now, or I know you sold the company, but if you go to the website now, it's still very team focused. It's amazing.
Yeah, in fact, it's funny, we're so good at our own production for things like videos and photos and stuff, that people just assume all the photos and things are actors or even clip art, but everything you see on there, we did ourselves, like, our own employees in different places, like, they take the pictures and they do the stuff and the da da da. Those are all actually us doing whatever it is doing, in our offices that we have, like, so, it is genuine, and even if it's funny that it might not be obvious, or maybe I guess nowadays you could assume it's AI. I'm not sure, but it is in fact genuine. So if that hopefully that comes through, but I don't know. It's hard nowadays, but we're trying. It is genuine.
Well, I mean, founder to founder, the picture that really gets me, and this might be a newer one
Mhm.
on your website. I'm not quite sure. I know it's an old photo. It's the one where you're standing inside the warehouse and you're introducing the new the what was it, 2013 or something like that that you
It's
moved
so
or
funny you call it a warehouse. It is our office space. We had gotten the lease, and that's what it looked like. And you're right, it looked like a complete disaster. There's like wires hanging from the ceiling. Everything's concrete, right? And it's
but I can
but
relate to that, and I think most
yeah,
founders can because we've all
of
moved
course.
into different buildings.
Exactly, and of course, that you can imagine the conversation. "This is ours, you guys." Like, "I know it looks like a disaster. It's ours, and we're gonna build it out like the way we want." It was pretty awesome, yeah.
Dude, my first big move was into a building that was abandoned for years. Had a hole in the ceiling all the way in the back.
Mhm.
There were cots, like not cots, but mattresses on the in the back because there were bums that had broken in and
Oh
were
god.
sleeping in there. There was mildew on the sheetrock up 4 feet. We had to cut all. It was crazy, and I did the exact same thing that you did with your team, but your picture is so much nicer
Oh,
than
I
mine.
know.
We walked in there and everybody's like, "Why? Like, what? This is much bigger, but this is really an upgrade." I'm like, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
let the
it'll
construction
get
people take
better.
care of it.
We're not moving in today. We're moving in after it's done. Don't worry. You know. um, yeah. A- Another funny thing is our address in that place is 504 Lavaca, and for the engineers are already laughing because 504 is a web website error code. So really not the right number to associate with the website
That's
host. But
hysterical.
anyway, okay, you can't
Well,
pick
it
your
worked out. It
pick your
worked out
numbers.
well. Hey, so I did something a little different for this episode. I sent an email out to our list and I asked them that if they were sitting down with you, what kind of questions would you
Oh,
want to
good.
talk to Jason
It's an
about?
AMA.
And the
Good,
questions that came in were freaking all over the place, from tactics to mindset to life after the sale, everything.
good.
So if it's okay with you, I
Yeah.
kind of want to bring you back to when you just started WP Engine. How did you get your initial momentum? And what kind of metrics did you track to make sure that you were like on course?
So on the one hand, WP Engine had the very common origin story of I'd had the problem, so I made it. I had a blog already on startups that was already getting on Hacker News, and when I got on Hacker News, it would crash because of the traffic.
Yeah.
And when it wouldn't crash, I would get so much traffic on those days that like one day would be as much as all the other non-Hacker News days combined for the year. So the fact that it would crash then is pretty damn bad. Like that's, kind of everything. It's almost like, Black Friday is your website's down. Like it's the one day you can't be down. So I would ask other bloggers, um, what do you do to keep WordPress up when you get a load of traffic? And the answer was always, I don't know, but if you find something, tell me because I need that. Right. Now, here's the difference between, I think, what I did and what a lot of people do. A lot of people assume because the quote unquote, I had the problem, that means so do other people, and there's a market, and they want to pay for it, and this is on their priority list now, and they actually are motivated to go buy it today, and you can get to them cheaply enough, and then they stay a long time. In other words, all the things that are needed for it to be a business, and of course, I haven't even listed them all. That's just some of the gates, that have to be good enough, at least, if not some of them pretty good. And so, just that you had it yourself is, actually doesn't say very much about any of the gates, not any of them. And people say, well, yeah, but I'm like my customer. Of course, you're not like your customer at all. You're quitting your day job to do this full time and build it because you think it's better. Zero of your customers, zero, are like that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bought it from you. They would go vibe code it or something. So you are like zero of your customers, right? Now, I mean, you're kind of like, you can relate to them in some ways, but you know what I mean? You got to take that mindset out and say, okay, that was a spark, and sparks are very important. It gives you the idea. Awesome. Now you got to go validate whether any of this, like this litany of things, are at least vaguely true or directionally could be right or isn't a deal breaker, because they usually are. Most startups fail because one or more of those are kind of fail, you might say. And sadly, they all have to work enough. Like it's not an or, it's an and. That's bad because like any of them fail, and you're done. I mean, not that you can't iterate and everything, but like this is why it's so fragile and why it usually doesn't work. So what I did after that spark is I went and actually interviewed. Um, well, I asked, I like really tried to ask 50 and got 40 interviews. And I used a specific method for running the interviews to try to like validate or invalidate this. And I'd use that same system, which I'm of course happy to relate what it is, on a previous idea, and invalidated that idea. It's like, oh, there's some neat ideas. It's not all trash. Of course, it's not. There's something good about your idea. That's why you're excited about it. It can't all be bad. But okay, it's not falling into place. Whereas with WP Engine, uh, pretty quickly I was able to get to, okay, if it's fast and it scales, it's secure, and our tech support is actually good, which is not cheap, right? And tech support about WordPress, not just saying the server's up. Now talk to your own tech person, but
Yeah.
WordPress, where then people would be willing to spend 10 times as much as they were spending on a shared host that they were likely on at the time. Again, like we have to deliver on this stuff, and it's not easy, but they're willing to pay for it. So okay, that's often a good strategy. So with that validation, that's when I started. So that's kind of the origin is the typical kind. I had it, but then there's this step, which again I had another idea before that, which I also was excited about. So but this one made sense. So that's kind of this initial like, why did I even do it?
So what kind of metrics were you looking at to make sure that you were on the right course while you were growing it?
While growing, I had a chart of literal just signups every day, just as someone signing up. In the early days, it's hard to track. I mean, you do track cancellations, but it often pings around. It flies around
Yep.
because N is so small. So like a percentage cancellation probably makes no sense early on. Um, but what I would say is exactly because there's so few people, every time one cancels, you can act like an FAA crash where you go like, why did that one? And try to really learn from each one since you don't have stats. Right? So it's kind of the typical thing. If you don't have enough N, then you've got to be
Mhm.
qualitative and look at each thing. Once you have N, I still think you should be qualitative and look at things because I think you learn a lot more by going in detail. But you start to get like dashboard numbers that you can look at to see like, is anything really horribly structurally wrong? Like, you start knowing that from the high level numbers. But I think you have to never stop talking to customers, find out why some cancel, all this kind of stuff. You have to never stop digging in. Even Jeff Bezos, after Amazon was, its size that it roughly is now, would say things like, most of our great insights are like something happened once or twice, and someone's like, "What?" And they go went and investigated once or twice at the scale of Amazon. And he's like, "Yeah, that's where the insights are." So it
Yeah.
just tells you again. I find that, but like even at that scale, that's continues to be true, and the metrics kind of settle out as yeah, like if a big metric's going sideways, obviously that's something you have to act on, but still doesn't tell you why. You're still going to have to go do qualitative stuff to find out why. Anyway, so signups every day for sure. I wasn't tracking things like ARPU very much. I mean, we had ARPU, but I didn't care that much because I was just trying to get customers.
Mhm.
Um, and gross margins are pretty important for hosting. Like for SaaS companies, you usually just assume it's going to work out, and you're probably right. I think nowadays with AI, that's not true, and so you have to be maybe more mindful of that. Um, but in hosting, it's not true that gross margins just work out. In fact, the shared hosts often have margins more like 40% or lower. So it's not automatic for that would be the case. So we did look at that and make
Mhm.
sure that that made sense. And also in support. So we had a lot of support metrics because that's one of our things. I always said, um, for many companies, the product is the product, and support is at best helps you use the product. It's good. It's a support area. It literally supports the customer, but usually it's not the best. Usually it protects the company from having to talk to customers. It's like a shield that's like, you know, that's
Yeah.
usually what it is. And then especially when it is that, well, what would you do with that? Well, you wouldn't invest in it. We'd pay you would want that to cost the least because it's just a shield. It needs to work, but other than working, like whatever is the cheapest that where it still works is fine.
Mhm.
And what kind of people would you hire? And would you invest in those people? And what would their working conditions be like? You can imagine. And so for us, though, remember I said they paying for the last one was service. It's part of the product. So for us, service is part of the product, not by the hour though.
Mhm.
It's just that our product is 10 times more expensive than usual. And part of that is this customer service, but not by the hour, not consultants. And oh, by the way, we don't write code. Like for that, we say you got to find a marketing agency. We don't do professional services. Don't be the hour, don't write code. But everything before that, we will. And and so, what do you do if support is part of the product that they're paying premium for? Oh, you gotta hire the best people. You gotta invest in them. You gotta have, like, as we scaled, internal education groups that made
Mhm.
curriculum and delivered it, test to help people grow, so they can come in the company and then grow and themselves make more money and be better at the company. They don't have to leave to get a promotion because we're helping them get one by getting better. We're helping that happen. These are the kinds of things which, as you were said kind of in the opening, like, isn't that incredible for a person to be invested in like that and then be able to make more money and be more capable? And it's good for us, the company, because we hired them. And then, we were rapidly able to get them to be better and more capable. And so that's good for us too. That's efficient. If you want to put on that hat, it's like, oh, it's very, very cost efficient and time efficient, way to get good people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's awesome for them. Like this is the good way. you know? So that's the kind of thing the kind of attitude we'd have for something like that. But I'm kind of drawing it out from this product thing because I think when you think about your strategy, you're having to make decisions like, is support something where it's the least cost, or is it the reason people buy? Maybe there's other choices, but those are often like two poles of a choice that every company needs to make. Or if there's a third, reasonable and very strong choice, not just both or neither, I don't know. That's not a choice. But if there's a very specific opinionated choice, okay, fine. And then so look at how many things flowed out of that for us versus others. That's why it's a strategic choice, because it's a choice that when you make it, it affects like so many things across the company, whole teams and attitudes, and customer promises, and if you're going to have terrible support, you better have better documentation. And a product that doesn't need support, now all products should do that, but it becomes mandatory because there's no one else to kind of catch. So again, it just goes everywhere of like what do these strategic choices mean for us. So I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but so the metrics we use, so that's a long way of saying we had metrics for support. I know I don't went on a tangent, but hopefully that's generally useful like mentality,
Yeah,
or
before you go on with
thought
metrics,
process.
let me stop you with the customer support, because I think that's a hole in a lot of the companies that we look at, whether we're
Yeah.
looking at them as the one that's in my portfolio, one that we're investing in, or one that's inside the advisory firm. G- Especially with the advent of AI, so many people
Mhm.
are taking away from the time and the money investment into customer support, which in
Mhm.
my opinion is the relationship that you have with your customers, which in my
Yeah.
opinion is the heart of every company, the relationship that you're building. Every company
Yeah.
should be a relationship company. And I've had to go through these iterations in my life with our teams where I had to sell the idea to my salespeople, to everybody on my team, that customer support is the heart of everything that we do. So great customer support turns customers, even if they're irate customers who want a refund, can turn them into cheerleaders, or could
Yep.
subdue something that could blow up.
Yep.
But from our sales perspective, from our customer support people, we learn where the sales funnel is broken. We learn where our message is broken. We learn
Yeah.
how to improve everything. We learn what they want next. We
Um,
started a new company about a year
Maybe
ago.
as long as you're segmenting the customers with your ideal customers from everyone else, because when the wrong customer signs up and they have trouble in support, that's not something you should fix.
I agreed 100%, but you don't
Yeah.
know that
You
unless
don't
you
know.
have good people behind support. When you
Right.
have the cheap people, or when you have a system like
Yeah. Yeah.
an
Yeah. You
AI
don't
or a
know.
software or a
Yeah. Yeah, so
yeah,
a couple of thoughts there. One is I'll get to the AI because that's interesting, but just sticking on the humans for a second. Um, yeah, relationship is right. Although you get a different human every time, so I do agree with that. But one way I look at it is a brand, because brand is what you feel or think when you see the company or think about the company.
right.
And part of that is stuff like the fonts you pick and the language. That is part of it. Of like you're trying to form a feeling or an experience or something. It's premium or it's cheap or whatever. And there's no doubt to me that support is brand. It might be more important. Like very first impression, of course, is the website. Fair enough, but like the long term one is maybe support. Actually, what happens when something goes wrong? How was I treated? If I was treated well, I really don't care what the font is. Like I now have a feeling about this company. And to your
Agreed.
point, even if they're like, I need a refund and leave, and to your point, like even if they're not cheerleaders, if you take them just to a neutral, then they don't yell on Twitter about how they hate you, or they don't leave a bad review. Like that's huge. Like that's very valuable. You're
Yes,
not going to track that though. Like one of the things I like to say is not every important thing is a metric, and some things that aren't trackable. So number of people who would have left a bad review but didn't because you treated them right is a metric, but not trackable. Let's just say, roughly speaking, isn't. And yet that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to maximize that number, even if we
yeah,
don't know if we are, but we can make choices that are in that direction and just say like, "Oh, okay, we can't, this is not one of those things where we can measure it and improve in a loop, but that doesn't mean it's not important and we shouldn't at least intend to do that. Or maybe there's a proxy metric that's not that. We know that, but it helps us directionally know if it's like getting better or worse. And that's good enough because we can't measure it. So there's all these ways you can back into like a better way to think of it. Some things like differentiation is super important and not a metric. That's okay. We can still say product wants to be differentiated. There's different ways to qualitatively talk about that. It's okay, right? I have a lot of opinions about metrics, by the way. But so in support, metrics are harder than I think people give it credit for. A lot of times they're like, metrics are hard for software developers because you can't look at things like lines of code written, because what, or points because that's supposed to be something else. So it's like really hard to measure. Not like sales and support where it's easy. Well, I would say maybe in sales, maybe, but in support, it's not so easy. It looks easy, but I'm not so sure. So for example, let's say, um, you have a person in support, they're only doing a couple of tickets a day, it's taking them forever. There's a lot of back and forth with the customer. Customers are still unhappy half the time. So is this a terrible support agent? I mean, by the metrics, everything I said was bad. They're cost ineffective. Customers are only, But now what if I told you this is your best uh, technical engineering minded support rep and he gets the worst, hardest problems? And that's why it's like that. So
Yeah.
is this a bad rep or is this actually fantastic? And the answer is, well, we don't know by the metrics.
Right.
We have to know some other way. But it just goes to show how all those are the metrics we use to run support, but that's not necessarily right. At least on an individual basis. Maybe you could argue something about the overall team or something like this, or trends like that. Maybe segments by customers, that could be interesting. So it's not that it's useless. Of course, it's not useless. But I think when you start taking metrics and bring it down to something like a person, um, they are meaningful. Like it's facts. Facts are useful. Facts are inputs, but you got to take on board all the other context about the person, about the human and the situation to understand, like, quote unquote, is this okay or is this good or is this bad? So another one that's interesting is CSAT or NPS or whatever the heck you use to measure that. Again, there's a lot of interesting stuff about how NPS, transactional NPS, is almost for sure crap, and like that's not a way to measure things. There's some actually decent data about the happy face, neutral face, unhappy face thing, and that's why they do it
Oh
at like
yeah.
Heathrow Airport. That's actually not too bad, and people kind of know what to do with that. Another interesting thing is the customer saying the person on the other end was good to me and seemed to be competent, or is the person saying, here's how I feel right now,
Hmm.
was my problem resolved? These are not the same things. And it's not entirely clear, even if you ask it well, what they're answering. So you got to be careful again of like, what are you saying? Like this great engineering rep may do great work, and in fact, the customer might agree that the person did great work, and the customer's still unhappy. That's important, but are you sure you're getting that? Because those are different kinds of metrics. You have to be careful about things like CSAT and certainly NPS. Another thing that's interesting in support that's really hard to track is what's called the XY problem, which is customer. And you can look that up on Wikipedia. But customer comes up and says, I can't, I don't know, I can't, let's say for us, I can't make a new site. We're like, oh, let me help you out. Like, click here. They're like, oh, okay, thanks, great, bye. And then like 30 minutes later, they're back. Hey, I can't, whatever, upload a file, whatever it is. And this goes on back and forth like this. Now, if you ask the customer, how satisfied were you with this interaction? Let's just suppose they're super happy. They're like, oh my God, they answered. Let's even say it's a phone. They answered the phone on the first ring. They were super nice. We resolved it quickly. Like, oh my God, your support is amazing. But the fact that they had to call back 11 times is actually quite bad. And maybe it's bad from a product perspective, but it's also not good from a support perspective. That kind of bouncing is not only inefficient for everybody, but
Hmm.
it actually leads to customers churning. And there's data on this. There's a really neat book with data about this. Uh, I'm just now blanking on the name. I'll think of it. But it's about customer loyalty, and
Hmm.
customer loyalty is not correlated with NPS. Let that settle in for a second. Customer loyalty is not correlated with NPS, but it is correlated with a few things, and one of them is this back and forthness. As opposed to saying, I can't make a site, and they're like, oh, okay, well, what are you really trying to do? I'm trying to migrate a site or whatever. Oh, well, let me stay on the phone with you and let's do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, again, support metrics might look terrible. You were on the phone for them for an hour, right? Like, and yet by having one longer call and the customer actually got accomplished what they wanted instead of this ping ponging with good metrics, quote unquote, um, way better, and loyalty goes up, which is what you really want. That's an
Yeah.
investment now. Now support is investing in LTV, dude. Right? Like, listen up.
The
Like,
biggest metric.
this is valuable growth, okay? And not just answering the question, but that requires knowing about the XY problem, valuing solving the full problem, understanding that support metrics. What does that mean? It means the metrics are going to look different from what you might think of how many tickets per day and how satisfied.
Yeah.
I mean, satisfied maybe, but so so these are all metrics, and this is all part of great support and data back. So hopefully that is answering your question about support
Yeah.
metrics.
Yeah.
The other thing is AI, and what I would say about that is I'm a sort of AI neutralist, meaning I'm not a maximalist I'm not against it. I feel like at any given time, AI in any context, because obviously AI quote unquote means a lot of things in different kind of has at any given time, there's some things it's actually quite good at and impressive and good for customers, and then other things where it's not. And so if we don't use AI for its good things, the customers are not getting as good service as
Right.
they could. And if we overuse it, then it's bad for everyone. There's fewer jobs. We're not respecting people. Customers are getting worse things. It's actually worse for everybody. So while difficult and not maybe objective, I think the vision statement is we should be trying to use AI for what it's actually good at and not beyond that. And while of course that's going to be very difficult, that it's not that is the right mode. So for example, in support, what's good about AI is it's 24/7, immediate, and let's just call it 40 languages. So they can chat in their own language. That is really, really good for customers. A Norwegian can just come in and chat in Norwegian, even though we don't know Norwegian. Dude, why is that not good? Right? For the customer. And in any time zone. On the other hand, of course, AI, one of the problems with AI is it's usually wrong. It's often wrong. It's wrong too much for a lot of these things. Well, then you can't use it. Like you can't be giving customers wrong stuff even efficiently. That's not acceptable. So there's one problem. And then, of course, some AI can't do everything. So if you could say, all right, look, there's got to be like 10 or 20 FAQs that AI can do in any language and quickly and accurately. Implementing that is good for everybody. I mean, support reps don't want to tell you how to reset your password either, right? Like, they're not interesting. So how do we do that, and how do we get to a human otherwise so that the customer's always having an amazing experience and it is efficient for the company, and even the support reps, oh look, their tickets per day will go down because they're not doing stupid stuff. They're really helping customers with harder things, or just like you say, building the relationship. When I want to reset my password, I don't know how. I don't want to build a relationship. I want to know how to do that. But when it's like, oh man, help me set up my Shopify store, I have so many questions. Then if a human being's answering, how cool is that? So um, now you may not agree with my exact way of looking at how to categorize these things, but that's how I would look at it. In what ways is this tool genuinely better for everybody? Let's do that. Let's not do that because we're scared. But on the other hand, if we over apply, it's bad too. So that's my AI sort of really view on everything, but in support particularly.
Yep. So we use, when it comes to support, we'll use AI and give people an option. So
Hmm.
all of our customers or prospects, they know they're clicking on the button that says to get an instant answer
Yeah,
using AI, and then we give it a name, a person's name, AI Emily, AI whatever, or click here, get a live agent within
great,
the next few minutes, right?
great.
Because there's a short time gap, instant, few minutes, most people are clicking the AI for the basic stuff.
Yeah,
But our general rule of thumb
and they're
with
happy
AI is
because they're like,
always
yeah, okay, thanks. You gave me a tool. If I don't like it, they won't use it. It's perfect.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So they could always pop back over.
yeah,
But our general rule for AI is we use AI to support us so that we could support our customers better. Like, we don't use AI to support our customers. It's very rare that we do that. And when we do, they always have an option.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this to me is the right kind of way. So, just always asking. AI is brilliant at some things and still pretty bad at things, like worse than a lot of people get it credit for. So, how can we take the current mixture that it currently is and not talk about what it's like in 5 years because nobody knows and it doesn't really matter right now? So, what you're going to give terrible support now because maybe in 5 years it'll be better? Like that's not that's not good. Yeah, yeah,
Um, I'll just say one thing about the metrics part. Like, I think you did a great job of summing up some metrics. Obviously, we have different metrics for every area of our company. Every department has different metrics, blah, 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 blah. But our metrics are very fluid and flexible. So the metrics that we have um, may be slightly different. And in like our customer support, since we're talking about that this month than it is next year this month, right? So we reevaluate the metrics that we're tracking,
sure.
just like we reevaluate everything else inside of our company, inside of each department, inside of our
Yeah, of
company.
course.
And I think that that's one of the big places that companies go wrong. They're sold on the fact that they need to have metrics. They need to know their metrics and get it narrowed down to blank number. And they're so. But then when they're exhausted and they finally figure out metrics, they keep judging sales just on the same metrics that they judged sales 10 years ago. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't
Of
know
course,
why
it
they're
has to
not
evolve
growing.
just as strategy or other business process have to evolve, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times people don't have a framework in mind of how to think about metrics, so they don't know how to think about what metrics are the right ones. And so also, um, I would say you should be metrics informed, not metrics driven,
That's a
right?
great way to say it.
And
I
that's
agree.
part of why the metrics can change, because if that's
Yep.
not what we need to know to do what we think is right, then we should get the things we need to know. And again, like we were just saying, like so many things are, well, it's a proxy for that, or we can't. That's right. So that's okay. There's still a metric. We just know how to think about it. So here's a framework I've used at many teams at WP Engine. People seem to like it, and even teams that have never done metrics, this is a way to get them to start thinking about it, because you can just have them pick one metric from this framework. That's what I would do. Um, but we also had, dozens of metrics that also across the company that fit this framework too. So it works kind of there. And this is in an article of mine. I think you could probably search for something like product KPI and find it. And I say that I'm not of course not here to like promote articles. And also I have no ads. I have no courses. I don't sell anything. So like, it really is. I don't even track you with like Google. Like, so it really is just out there for anybody. But anyway, so here's how I think about it. Um, I think of this not a 2x2, um, a two-axis thing, and I'm imagining a team. It could be a human, but I often think about metrics as a team thing. I know you can bring it down, but whatever. And so I think of the center column as the team, okay, and then that from top to bottom, at the very top is stuff that's at the customer. At the very bottom is the stuff that only the team knows. So at the very, very top is stuff that's actually happening at the customer and not even with us, but it relates to this team. Then it's stuff that that maybe activity the customer's doing on our site or on in our product. Let's say it's a product team. And then like maybe just below the line, it's the stuff we're doing. So that activity might be things like artifacts that they created with us, DAOs, usage, right? That's the customer, right? Kind of above the line, that it's still the customer doing it. And the product team is like, this is our product. So we need to know if they're using it, right? Above that would be stuff like, and is the customer achieving the value they wanted or something like that, right? All right. So just below the line is what is the teams doing stuff that the customer will see. So this is stuff like features, bug fixes, surfacing data, documentation, right? This is all stuff the product team is going to do, and the customer will see it. So it's still nudged up there by the customer, but the customer's not doing it. We're doing it, and it's those kind of metrics. And then as you go lower, it's stuff again like the next one down I call health. So it's stuff like is our product working as promised? So this is more operational. The customer may experience this. If it's not good, they may not. So things like uptime, latency, scale, mean time to recovery, test coverage in the code. So like the customer can't see test coverage, but they could see bug, like whatever. Uptime, they could definitely tell. I don't get all wrapped around the axle about exactly where all these go. That's not the point. The point is just conceptual, okay? Not not trying to get crazy about this. It's a little further away from them, and it's operational as opposed to the product. And then all the way at the bottom is the stuff that the team knows, like are we updating our security patches? Do we need to update a library as a refactoring? Like all this kind of stuff that's like maybe costs. So there's all this stuff down here that the customer definitely doesn't know about. And in
And it's
fact, other
obvious it's
teams at
not
the
clear.
company, it's not that they don't know because it's a secret. It's not a secret. It's just they don't even care. And then, like, how much stuff can a person know? Like, we don't need to know how you how you patch your stuff. Like, just do it, right? So it's down there. Now, all this is true, and all these have metrics. Like you might have a goal like no security patch last that needs to be done is hanging around for longer than 30 days. That's our security policy, and you have a metric of how many patches are there and how are any overdue, and like you can have all these operational metrics around that all the way up to the top. So all these are metrics. Remember now, what's nice about this column is it's all true and it's all in the team's control. I mean, okay, what the customer does, okay, but it's the team's direct behavior that causes that they use that feature or not. If they don't use it, the team built the wrong thing, and that's the team's fault, isn't it? So like this is all the team, but this is nice. This is your shit. You can't
Mhm.
blame sales for this, like you can't, right? This is your world, which is nice because one of the things I hate about or that can be very bad about metrics is when you're responsible for some metric that you don't control or they only partially control. And that's so aggravating. So one of the nice things about this column is this is your stuff and you can't say that. You do control it. Isn't that nice? This is why you might want to start here, because it's reasonable to say, like, your own uptime is something you probably should monitor because you care about your product, or your latency, say. You care that your own product that you're building isn't slow, and you should measure it, not someone else. And you should have your own goals and whatever you want. Like, you're a self-managed team. You should have pride in your think. Maybe it's fine and there's nothing to do, or maybe it's not fine, you're working on it, or it's fine, but you're just going to watch it in case it goes bad. Then you're going to act. Otherwise, you won't. Like, that's all on you. But like, this is your metrics. Like, right. So this column, it's easier to get there. It's immediately measurable now. You don't have to wait a year, right? So it's immediate. It's it's the team's own and all this kind of stuff. And single cause. It's your fault. It's the product. So that's the middle column. And from customer down to internal.
Got it.
So then when you go left on the chart, I guess that's this way, whatever. Then you get into the metrics that feed into your team. So for product, that could be things like where sales are coming from, or I don't know, like, that kind of thing. And even before that, there could be marketing. Now, that's not the team's job. The product's job is not to, I don't know, do marketing or something. But it's useful to know what are these metrics that come first. So like, if this were, say, a sales team, obviously upstream metrics would be stuff like leads, but lead quality, and you'd have all these kind of metrics that are upstream of me. Now, I know that on the one hand, I don't control it. On the other hand, it affects me.
Mhm.
And we're really one team. So we don't want to have like me versus you. This is one world, but we have different responsibilities, and that helps paint that picture accurately. So then it's like, well, are we closing the ones we have, or what's the sales quality? Okay, so now what you're doing is starting to talk about what metrics you may need to understand what's going on, so everyone knows what to improve, or right. If leads go down, it makes sense that sales go down. Also, these things to the left that feed in, they're leading metrics. If the number of leads per month is decreasing, number of sales per month in 3 months will decrease, right? So they're also leading in time, but they're also not in the team's control. So there's like this interesting, it's leading, it's potential, it's probably multi-factor, like, it's probably lots of reasons. It's not in team's control, and it's early. So that's interesting for the team to know, right? Because it's related to them, even if it's not them. And it keeps us clear as leaders, especially, that we're not like sort of assigning the wrong or asking the wrong questions to the wrong team or whatever. And then, of course, to the right, there's the downstream metrics. And so immediate downstream might be things like customer satisfaction or collaboration with other teams. Like, we have teams at WP Engine where they measure whether other teams at WP Engine are happy with them. Now, that's a lagging metric. Like, today, like, that's not necessarily like a today metric. It's a little lagging, not too lagging. It could be like a couple weeks, right? Not too lagging, but it's a little lagging. It's a little multi-factor. It's not completely in the team's control, but mostly, like, there's things like that. So it's a little bit lagging. Sometimes costs are like that. Customers' overall satisfaction is like that. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, by the way, you still have top to bottom here. So notice when I said lagging, I said customer satisfaction. So that's on the top and to the right because it's customers.
Got it.
Then there's other teams and how they feel. That's under the line. Then way at the bottom, there's my costs for my team. Still lagging, so it goes to the right. But it's me. But like, and it's the customer can't tell, so it's far away from the customer. So you still have customers on top, all the way to internal as you go left and right. And then finally, all the way on the right, you have the corporate metrics, revenue, cancellations, gross margin, because of course, aren't those the most important? Well, yes, but you can't look at one product team. Like, we have something like 75 product teams. You can't look at one of them and say, that what, what about our revenue?
Yeah.
Of course they do flow into the revenue, but it's such a huge multi-factor thing. You can't like hold them responsible for corporate revenue,
Yeah, of course.
and yet they can't be ignorant about corporate revenue and their impact on it, can they? So to me, this framework helps. It's like, that's right. Since it's way on the right, it's very laggy. It's multi-factor. There's many reasons for it, but you influence it. And you're not like wholly responsible for it, but you influence it. So I'm going to hold your team accountable to the things in your column, but you've got to be trying to move the metrics to the right, even though it's multi-factor lagging, and we all agree on that. So this is I know I've gone on, but I think you like metrics. So this is my way of thinking about this, all these kind of typical things of like, but some are leading and some are lagging, and some are the customers, some are not, and some is about me, and so on. So in a sense, it places the team in metrics context with customers, with ops, and with before and other teams, and also the overall company metrics at the right. Um, so that teams, because the teams, if you just say, hey, you're responsible for revenue, they're like, but that's not me. So this allows them to say, yes, I am, but it's way over here. So it allows people to go take a breath, understand this is all related to me, but I'm not getting confused anymore. And neither is my management getting confused about like ownership and like, and so now I can see that. So I'll go to a team and I'll say like, maybe you're missing some of these, even some downstream that, we all agree without having to discuss it is not like your responsibility, but you kind of need to know. Um, or hey, look, you have all these metrics about ops. You have all this below the line metrics. So you're like managing yourself pretty well. But you have no idea what the customers are doing with your own product. Maybe next quarter, our goal should be, yeah, let's like get some usage metrics, or even one usage metric in the one way you pick for the whole quarter. But like, let's just start looking at what the customers are doing in a metrics or a formal way, right? Like, so you can have those kind of conversations because you can see on the chart, or vice versa. Y'all are incredible at design. You're doing stuff, but oh my gosh, like we're just not paying attention to quality. We're not paying attention to security. We need to. Like, what if we just looked at, we already have a company-wide policy and we're SOC 2 and whatever about security patches. Let's just make sure we're doing it. Let's just do that this quarter. Next quarter, we'll pick up another one. Again, it can be very easy. Um, or But one of the things I love is I like to put at the very top right. So laggy as hell, not in our control, and customer the most.
Yeah.
Is the customer getting the benefit to their company that they always wanted all along, and why we're here? So like we make website, or we host the website, but I want to know, does our e-commerce customer, is their store growing in transactions? Now, do we as the host control whether they can go get customers and set the right
Right.
prices and sell? Of course not. Of course we're a piece of that, because if the site's faster, the data are from even Amazon and everything, if the site's faster, people will buy more.
Always.
If the site goes down on Black Friday, it's bad. We do have a role to play, and we don't need to like make equations. That's not what this is about.
Mhm.
We clearly have a role to play in that. But if ultimately that e-commerce store is not getting um, people to come in and buy, they're going to go out of business and churn. It won't be because our product failed,
Mhm.
but that's what's going to happen. And anyway, why are we all here? Just to make a server go, or because we want people to have e-commerce stores that succeed, right? Just on a human level, right? So I love having that box way over there. The fact that it's way over there, quote unquote, it keeps clear. Like, it's not like we just can control that, but we've got to keep it in mind, don't we? Because even when you're just thinking about prioritizing features, you kind of want that as a vision statement, as kind of a, in the back of your mind. And I like that. And are we measuring that? Are we measuring whether their stores are growing? How cool would that be, actually? Would you ask people whose stores are growing certain questions? People whose stores aren't growing, different questions, if you're on the product team, so you can help them better? Yeah. What can we actually do? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure we'd want to ask that. Well, how would we even know? Because we're measuring that thing, even though it's not our control, and it informs our product.
Right.
So the metrics can directly inform our product, even though we don't like quote unquote control it. So again, I'm just trying to emphasize like why this is so useful and just simple. Like, I just have boxes. I don't even have numbers on them. There's no arrows. I'm not trying to draw lines. I'm not trying to make equations. There's no rubrics. None of that crap. This is just putting sticky notes on a thing to help us think and talk about metrics better,
Mhm.
looking for little gaps, looking for holes, maybe informing some stuff. That's its purpose. And so that people can sort of get behind. So I'll go to a team that doesn't do metrics, and I'll be like, here's your column. Pick anything from the column. I don't care if it's customer or you. I don't care if it's the simplest, easiest thing, or it's something you're just like, dude, I want to know that. Can we just do that? I want to know that. Great. Like, I don't care if it has value to the whole company. I don't care, because you're just trying to get them used to metrics at all. Right. Anything they're excited about that they feel will be useful to them, good. Then maybe they'll do it, and that'll start building a habit of metrics. What's the next one? And so, because I feel like if you just try to like throw a framework on people, that doesn't work. They just reject it. The body rejects the organ. It doesn't work. So you have to, it takes more time, but then people can get used to it and be like, yeah, yeah. Actually, now I'm feeling bad. It's sort of like unit tests. At first, you're like, what? I don't need to do that. And then after you do it, you realize like, oh my gosh, this whole file is no unit tests. I feel like I'm so scared. Like, I've got to write unit tests, just kind of like, so metrics can be like that if you can get people going on it, right? And with something that's practical and not confusing, or confused of what the metrics should be like. So I know I went on and on, but only because I feel like you like metrics and talking about like specific frameworks and stuff, and I've used
Yeah,
this
yeah.
many times with success.
Yeah, and one of the things that you said, in fact, you glanced over it today, but you and I have talked about this in the past, and I don't know how you worded it today, but it was really good. You said something about, your team can't be ignorant, and in the past, you and I have talked about the team can't be ignorant of not just metrics, but the solutions, the challenges that we're having in business,
Oh yeah,
so that because our greatest ideas, our greatest paths forward for everything, they don't come from you and I most of the time. They come from our team meetings, the things that we
right.
talk about in our team meetings. They come from customer support. They come from a variety of different places. But our team, if they're good, give us everything that we need.
Yeah, yeah. So this is why I hate the phrase, don't come to me with a problem unless you have a solution. I hate that because it only takes one person to notice, hey, this is wrong. I'm not proud of this. This is bad. We could do better. It only takes one person to notice that.
Yep.
But all of us could help solve it. Are you saying that one person by themselves needs to come up with the best solution before just raising a flag? How terrible is your organization going to be as a result? Are you kidding? Like there's problems with teams. Communication's hard, working with people's hard, things are slower. There's lots of things about teams that are hard. One of the great advantages is we've got all these brains we could put on this to come up with the best solution. And you're saying that you're going to give that up? Like, why do we have this team? To get a little more done per day, I guess. But you're not taking advantage of one of the main advantages of having a team because don't come to me with, no, please come to me with a problem when you have no idea what the solution is or if there even exists one so we can all work on it. Are you kidding
Yep.
me? Crazy town. Yeah. So, but you're right. It's very important as managers that every time there's something wrong with the team, and that could be metrics like on the board, but it could be other
Right.
things. This team member, that all kinds of things. That if we wig out about the problem, like all that does is cause people to want to not surface problems or wait till they have a solution so they can look like right. It should always just be like, oh yeah, well yeah, that makes sense that we have that problem. That's the kind of problems teams have sometimes. What do you think we should do?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we should do this and that. Okay. Well, I guess so we're doing that now? Yeah. Okay. Well, in 2 weeks, let me know. Or if you need more support, because they might say, I don't know. Again, we have this problem. I don't know what to do. I need help. Perfect. That should be celebrated. Celebrated when a leader even says, I've got this problem with the team. I know I'm supposed to do that because I'm a VP or a director. I know this is my purview. I get it. I'm not sure what to do, though. I need help. That to me should be lauded. Now, if a VP needs help with everything for 6 months, okay, then they're in the wrong seat. That's okay, right? All right. But I expect there to be problems, different kinds of problems surfacing and being fixed all over the place all the time. I expect that. So if the VC says there's no problems, or VP says there's no problems, I know they're not doing their job, or they're ignorant and not and are bad at their job, or they're lying to me. There's no
Dude, I
good
w
thing.
I
There's no good possibility if the VP says there's
never.
no problems.
No,
So
silence like that is a major red flag.
right,
Anybody
and
who doesn't have challenges.
yeah, and then I'm gonna find out
Otherwise, your company's
sideways.
not growing. Maybe it's
Yeah,
not growing and you just really don't have any challenges, and that is a big challenge.
but you still do. You just don't believe
Yeah.
that there's no challenges. And then I'm gonna find out on the sideways, whatever, and now I'm gonna come back like, "Did you not know this?" "Oh, no, but I was working on it." It just this is all bad, right? So, no, you've got to know, but on the other hand, when they say, "Okay, now I'm having a challenge here, and now I'm challenging there," or "I need help with this. I'm not sure what to do," or "I can't do it by myself." I then, need to say, "Oh, great, yeah, let me help," or, "Oh, let's see who else could help," or, "Oh, man, should we put together, a little team for literally 4 days just to,
Yeah.
together help solve this or get to a conclusion?" How can I help? How can we help, right? Because otherwise, you have to meet that. I want them to
Yeah.
say, "Great, well, you have to meet that with the right attitude and the right response," and now we're cooking. So I call that being in command. I want my teams to be in command, not have no problems, not be, in command. So in command doesn't mean there's no problems, it means you know what they are. And you're either surfacing everything we just said just means that, right? Or it doesn't mean all the metrics are green. It means you have metrics and you're like, oh, look, see, these are red, these are yellow, these are green. And I'm working on this one red one now. And here's why we can't work on the next red one. So as much as I hate it, we have to come back next month. And I'll go, okay. So you're in command, not to, you're in
Yeah.
command of what's happening. It doesn't mean the product has no bugs. It means you know what they are and you're working on two of them. That you have some rationale, which I don't even need to know, but you have some rationale for why these are the next two. I don't even need to nitpick your rationale, but like you and your team decided, you thought about it, wasn't random. That's all I need to hear. That means you're in command of what's going on. So I have a whole list of these as well about being what I mean by being in command, which I wrote because as each time I would work with a new team, or especially if I was on top of, let's say, 50 teams, I need to easily say what I mean by this. What my expectations, my attitude as a manager. So I wrote up that in command. You can see that as well if you want to see that, what that means to me. But that to me is the right way of saying the team has to be um, in control, in command, or yeah, that's my word, in control, have a lot of autonomy, etc. Um, but like quote unquote self-managed, but like obviously my job is to take a look and see, like, are we aligned as a whole company and are things going well? But to me, this is the right interface to say, I've got to check in, I've got to see what's going on, but like I don't want to micromanage and you don't want me to micromanage. But I got to know that you are doing it, you are in command, and so to me, this is my interface where I feel it's healthy, where I'm doing just enough. I have just the right expectations, right? And just the right amount of communication. And the team has maximum autonomy, given that we're in a big company that we are working together, So to me, this is my way, or my intention anyway. So,
Hey,
and that talks
listen,
about metrics too. Many things, and metrics are one of them.
that brings something up that's really interesting. I use a word. I'm very, very focused on being clear, having clarity
Yeah.
in everything inside of my companies. Um, and 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 you and I believe the same thing when it comes to the fact that we always have to know what's next, right? You said something to me at one point where you said it doesn't really make a difference how fast or efficient you're running. If you're running in the wrong direction, it's
Right.
100% of a freaking waste,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so being clear on the few key actions or the few problems that we need to focus on,
Mm.
and then how we're going to tackle those things. Speak a little bit about that. How, if you don't actually answer that question, if you don't always have an answer to that question, then literally nothing else matters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, deciding what to do is the most important thing for the reasons you gave.
I don't know if you know this, but I spend one day every week, and I've been doing this for the last 15 years, helping other entrepreneurs to grow. And I'm not talking about companies that I own or the companies that I invest in. Every year, I work with 28 other companies using the same strategies that we use to grow companies inside of my personal portfolio. They grow their revenue, they grow their brand exposure, they grow their team. Some of them come because they want to sell for a big exit, some of them want to buy other companies, all of which could happen for the ones who qualify and get into this program with me. And it's called Club 28. Now, if that sounds like something you feel like you're fit for, then the way it would look is that you and I would work together closely. And that could mean me opening up relationships that I've built. It could be showing you the frameworks that we currently use, or it might just mean you tapping into the experience that I've accumulated over the past 30 years of growing companies. But this is limited because, like I said before, I only do this one day a week because every other day I'm working with the companies and the teams that are inside of my portfolio. And it's not cheap because it's one-on-one with me. But if you can handle more growth and you want help from somebody who knows what it's like behind 8 and 9-figure brands and how to get there smoothly, then I encourage you to apply for the next opening. Just go to chrisguerriero.com and apply to be part of Club 28. I'll try to put a link inside of the description here, but if not, then just go to my website and apply to be part of Club 28. And if you get in, I really look forward to meeting you.
So I have a system for this too, as you can imagine. I've been doing it for a long time, so and remember what I said at the top too. I don't believe that every framework just automatically works for everyone. I don't believe that, and I also don't believe if you just make a team do a framework that it'll work. It usually doesn't,
Right.
unless it just happens that they like it. So I'm not saying, oh, I know how to do everything right. Just do everything I say, it'll work. They've worked for us, therefore work for you. I'm saying none of those things. All I can do is relate what did work for us in case that helps. So you could take some, you could try it on for size and maybe change 30% so it works right for you, or just
Yep.
reject it, of course, altogether. Another thing I find is like, even just saying, here's why this will never work here is useful because it helps point the way to, well, then what might? Like it actually can help that. So anyway, with that sort of attitude, I'll pretend like I'm a genius and all this stuff will work everywhere, rhetorically, but just no, that's not how I actually what I actually believe. So this is a system I that we honed over time. So like we did this every quarter with one and then two and then three and then more teams, quarter by quarter, and continue to sort of meta hone the system. Like, hey, how could the system be better with all those teams? So this is a pretty, I don't want to say streamlined, but like for us and our culture, this worked really well. So it's not coming out of GPT or something. In fact, we did this before there was that. So anyway, the inspiration I had for the original thing here was um, there was let's see, the I think Biden, yes, Biden had just won the presidency, so and hadn't taken office yet, and the free software foundation um, was like, hey, these are the things we think the Biden administration should pay attention to in tech. So there were certain things about crypto, and there were certain things about copyright law. There were certain, they had like these certain issues that they cared about, and
Mhm.
it was written so well. And I remember reading this thing like, why is this so good? Like I have to understand why, because these topics were really far ranging, and yet they would summarize the puzzle in like one paragraph. They would summarize what they think should be done in one paragraph. They may have one or two little action points they believe, and somehow they distill these very complex topics so easily. Not, I mean, it was surely hard for them, but I mean, in the document, so easy to understand. You're like, oh yeah, oh that's good. Yeah, that's a good example. Oh, I see why you're saying we should do that. Yeah, that seems very reasonable to me. Oh, that's something we could do now, or a metric we could look at, or something. Well, how did they do this so well? Because that's what I want for my teams and even me. Like me myself, I'm not this clear. Our
Yeah.
teams are not this clear. And if you can do this with something as complicated as free speech, talk about a complicated, right? Then surely we can do it for, the admin screen on this portal. Like, like what? Like what are you talking about? Of course so what the hell's going on? So that was my motivation. So that turned into the first version of this framework. Of course, I'm just going to skip to the end because you don't want to you don't want to see iterations. But it was that the reason I'm saying all that, I mean, the history of it's kind of would be boring, except the lesson I learned from the history of it was um so often we're like, it's complicated, it's complex, so we can't say it in one paragraph. And I'm just like, no, you're wrong. It's complex and you don't understand it well enough to know which things are important, so you don't know how to put it in a paragraph. That's what's going on. It's a
Yep.
warning sign that like it's time to analyze it so that you can. Or decide it's okay that you don't know for now. That's okay. But like no, it's not that it's impossible. That's cope. That's not the right answer, right? Anyway, so okay. So here's what we do. This was again a team exercise. As you can tell, I constantly think it's better to go a little more slowly but involve the whole team, because then at the end of it, the whole team is completely aligned and bought in. So of course you could just decide what the team priority is and tell them, and I guess they'd have to do it. But if you take an extra week or two, like what happened with this is the first time it took us like 4 to 6 weeks because it was so hard to get our shit together. Like there's so much stuff that hadn't been done yet. But the team loved it. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. We're getting our strategy together. We're figuring out what's important. Like this is so neat. It then got to be, it would take like 1 to 2 weeks tops to do the whole thing. And part time. I mean, this is not one or
Yeah.
2 weeks, I just mean of
Of course.
wall clock time of very part work. And it was just like bam, because the team was so used to it, right? So so the first thing is, okay, what are the objectives for this team? So like what are we trying to do? Um, Guiding questions would be things like, what's happening right now with the team? What do we want to have happen? What happens if we don't get it? And here's like my favorite question here, because those are sort of generic questions. I admit that. If we weren't encumbered by roadblocks, No
Mhm.
distractions, no other team interrupted us, no manager came in with a thing, there were no security patches to do, there was no right? Nothing like that happened. How would we best advance the strategy of the company? And so do you have a strategy of the company? If not, that's another problem. But okay, if we know like here's generally our strategy, here's our goals for the year, blah blah blah. If we weren't encumbered by anything, how would we do it? Notice I didn't say estimate amount of time or any of that shit. That's not the question. Just what would this team do that would be strategic? Never mind your maintenance operations. I know that half or even 70% of your time has to be your own stuff and maintenance. I know that. We're not doing capacity planning. Okay. I'm asking you, how could you be incredibly strategic for the company? That's a fun question. Unless you don't have a strategy, then it's a confusing one. But then everyone's going to be confused, aren't they? And misaligned because, like, I don't know how are they supposed to know, and how are they supposed to be an independent team if they don't know which way we're going?
Yeah, but that's an amazing question to ask people to even see if your company understands alignments, because you're gonna
Right.
get if you get 3 or 4 or 12 different answers
Yeah. Exactly.
or paths,
Mhm.
then you know that you haven't been clear enough.
Right. So if that's the case, by the way, and you're a team, what you do is you just take your best guess at what you think would be strategic. Now, obviously, that's not very good, but what else are you going to do? Like you need to manage your own team and be in command, don't you? So
Right.
you have to like push upwards. Hey, you guys need a strategy, and meanwhile, where you're at, you got to say, all right, what is our okay? So anyway, that's the question. How do we be strategic? So then you say, okay, next one is it could be just one, by the way. Maybe you have a couple, but it could be just one thing, like because
Mhm.
it's right now. It could be like, well, in general, there's 14 things, but today it's this or something like that, right? Okay. But then obstacles stand in our path of doing that. Like, okay, we just said if you weren't encumbered by, then this is how we'd be strategic. Well, obviously, if we could, of course we should be strategic and do that thing. Of course, like that's right. But we can't. Stuff or it's hard. It's slow. It's hard. We can't. Like it's just various obstacles. So what's standing in the way of what we just said we would do? What makes it difficult to achieve that? Or what prevents it altogether?
Yeah.
Well, we get interrupted by this. Oh, well, this part of the code's not refactored. So like doing anything in there is so scary. We can't. And if we do, it takes forever. Um, or yeah, I'd love to, but marketing needed this. And like the CEO came in and said, well, we have to do this for marketing, even though it has nothing to do with us. And actually we're happy to do it, to be honest. Like it's actually really cool work. And we agree it's really valuable. So like, well, it's not about our objectives as a team per se. So in that sense, it's an obstacle to what it's actually like, we don't mind, it's an obstacle to the objective. It could be good. It could be bad. Like there's various obstacles. So again, there we need to figure out like, well, which of these are like really crucial? I mean, there's many, but like which of these are we're going to surface? Okay, so this is what we would do, but here's what's standing in our way. So now we're going to decide what we're going to do. Now we're going to decide the actions. So the question is, how do we overcome these obstacles while advancing the objectives with the people and capabilities and strengths that we currently have? Because that's what we're nearing now.
Yep.
Um, so again, like so the whole point is to do the strategic thing. So like how do we do that anyway now? But if this obstacle's in our way, we need to also work on eliminating the obstacle.
Of course.
Now, you're not going to eliminate every obstacle and do that's not going to happen. Well, this is where the team is discussing and making judgment calls that involve what do we think we can do? What is our capacity? What are our actual humans that we could actually put to work this month or quarter?
Mhm.
And it's going to determine some of these things we can do. So, for example, we could say, yeah, we have this, we're supposed to grow. We honestly don't know how. Like, our obstacle is we literally don't know how. So, we don't know what to do. Like, there's no action, but how do we overcome that? Yeah, you're right. What we need is a chunk of work to figure out how. That could mean product work. That's maybe not even engineers, or maybe it is engineers because we need to try something, or we need external. I mean, who knows what it is, but it's like a chunk of work that we're talking about this quarter, that we're playing this quarter, which
Yep.
is, oh my God, the biggest obstacle to us being strategic is something we don't know how to solve. That's the actual, so solving solving the meta thing is actually then we'll find out what we're actually doing. On the other hand, sometimes we do have a good idea, and of course we should do it. Um, so how do we reduce these obstacles so that we're doing the damn strategic thing we just said? Um, Now, once again, are there not? background stuff we need to do. The metrics below that fold, like I was saying, right? Like we need to work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So there's going to be some of that. Now, how do you allocate your time? That's going to be based on the team. There's some teams that are moving fast and innovative, in which case they should be doing almost no maintenance. There's other teams who may be working on mature areas of the code base where it is more important to maintain high quality than it is to have new features, or it's under some governance or compliance. Fine. Then for that team, this is why it's per team. For that team, they're like, oh yeah, so we're only gonna do this one thing, but we're gonna do it really well, and I don't know, whatever, right? Um, so, um, so how do we both change it's like, because if next quarter we have the same obstacles, isn't that terrible? Because then we'll never get to the strategy. We just said it's stopping us from being strategic. So we'll never be strategic. Okay, so we have to move the obstacles. We have to try to do some of that strategy. Or you could say it's going to be so hard to move this obstacle, we can't work on the strategy. But you know what? We're going to destroy it. So let me take a quarter to completely take out this tumor. And the next quarter, we're not going to have that tumor and we're going to be strategic as hell. Okay, that's a plan.
Wow.
Now we're back to good again, right? You're back to in command. So sometimes, so again, it's so contextual. So I don't want to say quote unquote, it depends. I'm giving examples of good, like things that sound good to me, because it sounds like the team analyzed this and had a reason. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm giving examples of what those could be. Like another one is, yeah, there's some obstacles, but you know what? Screw it. We're just going to like plow through and get back to that next quarter because we really want to ship this thing this quarter. So we're writing down those obstacles. We're saying, I know, I see that. I'm choosing not to fix it because it's not too bad. And I think we can just press and get this strategic thing done before our annual customer event. After the customer event, we're going to come back to the obstacles. Maybe we're going to switch up a little, right?
Yeah.
We're going to just fix the bugs in the things we just shipped and actually work on some of these obstacles that next quarter. That sounds pretty good to me. So there could be many things that are reasonable and has to do with capacity and so on. It's not unusual for a team to realize our obstacles are so overwhelming, we literally should do nothing but fix them for like 6 months, and just the rest of the companies just have to know we're not shipping anything except bug fixes, but we're going to come out the other end like screaming. So Amazon did this, right? They famously said, "Oh my God, the code's too interconnected, so we've all ground to a halt anyway." And so everyone's going to stop. No features are allowed. We're going to turn everything into API only and API first. And they took months and months and months. I think it might have been 9 months. I forget what it is. Then they emerged the other side as they are now modular and API driven. And now you look at the cloud and you're like, oh yeah, I can see that. So again, like this isn't just me saying this. It could be that that's the right thing to do, even in a hyper scaled thing like Amazon. After all, if you're scaling really fast, it means people like their product the way it is. It might make sense to pause new features, or at least some teams do, in order to get really healthy and really unblocked and doing strategic things next. That could be smart.
Hey,
Okay,
I'm
so
going to.
actions. Then there's measures, which is the one you like. How will we know that
Mhm.
these actions are working? How will we know the obstacles are going away? How will we know? This goes back to my chart, of course, in my case. But okay, and then another one I like, if we're thinking strategically, because on a quarterly level we should be thinking somewhat. How will our company be different after this? It's a nice little like question about measuring things. Okay, and then finally I have a section. What are we not doing? This is important because everyone else looks at the thing, including other people on the team and outside the team. But what about this? Well, we have been complaining about this forever. When they see that the team puts it in the not doing, that's the team saying, I heard you. We processed it. What this means is we felt the things above here were more urgent or important or something or other where that's blocked. Maybe you give reasons, maybe you don't, but okay. We thought about it. We didn't forget. We didn't not listen to you. If you
Right.
want to chat with the team, we can say why, or maybe you want to put why in the doc. If you want a big old doc, you could say why in the doc. That's nice. But if it's just bullet points, that's cool. They can ask you, but they can see right away. The conversation isn't, dude, you didn't listen to me. The conversation is, why did you not choose to do mine? See, very different conversation. Oh yeah, because we need Simon to work on that. Simon's already doing this and that. And so like we just can't this quarter, right? Or something like that, right? So so that's the full thing. What's the objective, the strategic objective that we really would do, but we can't, or we're significantly hampered because obstacles. So here's what we're doing to reduce the obstacles, get some of that done anyway, or not. Maybe like whatever kind of thing you decided. Here's how we'll know that measures. Here's what we're not doing, which may be pulled in the next quarter, may not. That's okay. I like that as a sort of high level team level backlog that is ordered, not fully ordered like number 17, number 18. I mean, come on, who cares? But maybe the top 3 to 5 are the top 3 to 5, and the bottom 10 are the bottom 10. Like, maybe that level of ordering as a backlog. That's nice. It's just communicating a little bit. And you're totally allowed to just completely change your mind on that at any time, right? That's not a commitment. That's just kind of writing stuff down.
And how
So
often are you meeting with your team for these things?
we make one of these every quarter.
Okay.
And that's why I keep
Yeah.
saying quarter. It's a quarterly process. And again, the first time it's like, what is the strategy for this team? Or how does this team do that? How do we know? And it takes a long time. But a lot of times the team's like, yeah, what is our, like, we had this mission statement we wrote 3 years ago. It didn't even mean anything then. Like, maybe it's time to be specific about what the hell we do and what so that's good though. That's good cleaning up your house stuff,
Yeah.
right? So the first time probably takes a little bit, then they're just not used to doing this and so on. There's a lot of argument about what they are and what's important. Um, but then what happens is like the third time that they're just like, okay, well, you know what? A third of the stuff from last time we're still doing, so that's just going to come over. The obstacles, some of these haven't even changed. Our objective certainly hasn't changed. Like how we contribute to the, I mean, we should ask quickly, did it change? But probably the answer is no. That's a 1 minute conversation. But like you said, you need to ask every time. Yeah, cool. Ask, but probably not, because it's a slow moving sort of a thing
Right.
typically. Um, and then yeah, there's a couple of actions from last time we just got to pull over, but we have time for 2 more. That's what we're going to discuss. And it's just you're so used to it, right? The metrics we already have them. Maybe you add one, maybe not, but like even if so, you're just used to it. You're like, yeah, we're gonna need one more metric, so just throw that in an action. Is we're gonna add this one metric. So this quarter we won't know what it should be because we're not measuring it. So this time the goal is just have it.
Yeah.
Next quarter we'll have some kind of goal or whatever. Be that simple, right? Like I mean, in the document, I mean, doing it's not simple, but the
Mhm.
document can be that simple. Um, and it should be just because otherwise it's hard to consume.
Of
And
course.
so, yeah, like every quarter, but it's quick. Now I say quarter. It's not, I do think that every 90 or 100 days or so, there's a certain rhythm, human rhythm that happens. And the way I like to say it is if you do have a remote team and you bring them all together and you have like this amazing week, it's all social. It's this you realize like, oh my God, this is what we're missing being remote. And that's right. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be remote. Maybe it does, but maybe it just means you need to get together. But how often? I think if you watch your own team interactions over Zoom and Slack or whatever, like the next week, it's so cool. Like you still have it like 100%, and it degrades somehow. I don't even know what the curve looks like. I don't know how exactly long, but in my experience, just very, very, very roughly, I would say like 90, 100 days is when you sort of lost it all. And it's time to recharge the batteries. So does that mean you should get together 3 times a year, 4 times a year to try to keep that going? Yeah, that's what I think, and that's kind of why. This is all gut feel, right? I don't have data or anything. I'm just, this is how I feel. Um, in that same
Yeah, but
sense,
it's how
like
you feel after, over a decade of doing it.
yeah, yeah, but it's also personal. Like maybe some people like in 3 weeks they're like, I got it. I feel so alone, like so. I realize it's personal, but that's just my personal feeling. With that same attitude, I just think this 90 or 100 days is a certain kind of a time frame
Mhm.
where certain kinds of things like sort of run out. So if you did what I just said every month or every sprint, that would obviously be ridiculous, right? But if you only did it once a year, I just do feel like 4 months in, you sort of run out of like, oh, are we still on track? Do we need
Oh,
to?
yeah.
So I say quarterly, but what I really mean is I feel like there's this 100 day ish period where like you probably want to check back in even if it's quick, right? In fact, some teams did that. They would have like, we're going to have a 2 hour meeting for this because because since we've done it a few times, if everyone comes prepared and we generally agree, it will only take us 2 hours to be fully aligned in the next 3 months. If we don't fully agree, we'll find out, we'll get everything we do agree on done, and we'll find out what the things are where we do need to spend some more time. It could be 2 hours a quarter to make sure you're on track and change courses, just everyone's kind of seeing it because you're talking all the time, right? It's not like
Yep.
you're never like you. So you can see how efficient this can be. I do not think you should be spending weeks and weeks every time, right? That's crazy. Um, anyway, so that's how I feel. And so because I feel it's about the time frame and not the calendar quarter, the
Mhm.
fiscal quarter, I actually don't like planning around the fiscal quarter unless the team really does have a tie to the fiscal quarter. Finance teams have a tie to the fiscal quarter. So it makes sense for finance teams to be flying around a fiscal quarter. That's logical. For sales teams, for the same reason, probably so. Because the finance teams, right? It's like tied that way. But that's not how support works. There's
Yeah.
nothing about the financial year that has anything to do with support or product, but other things do. So what I like is for teams to pick a rhythm. I call it an organic or natural rhythm, that whatever makes sense for them is the right rhythm. For example, on a product team, what are you shipping in December? Like brand new stuff? Nothing, because no one's seeing, you're not doing that. Well, what a good time then to work on your plan for the next year instead of shipping stuff, right?
Yeah.
So a product team may want to say, oh, we're going to do our we're going to do a quarterly planning in December, anytime, so that in January, when we come back, we're like, bam, we already know what we're doing. And we may even get all the way through April with that, like all the way through spring break and a little bit of April because, conference season or something.
Sure.
Because we can just be heads down and plow. But then at the end of April, right before the kids are about to be out of school and everyone gets distracted, we're gonna do another quote unquote quarterly, because that was 4 months. Another planning meeting that's gonna get us through summer. Because here's the thing: when September hits, our sales spike because like Europe's back and the Americans are back from vacation, and so we've got to have stuff shipped by August so that in September the salespeople are crushing it.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be our May to August plan. The whole point is to ship some stuff, but that's why. See, I had reasons. Now, my reasons may not be your reasons, but you see what I mean? I'm finding things that are real, ebbs and flows of people's energy, of other teams, of when we sell, right? I'm finding signposts around the year that are real, and then I'm combining that with about 100 days. It could be 4 months, though. It could be 2, 3, right? I'm trying to combine that to find like a couple of humps. So maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4. I don't want 6 months to pass, though, right? 2 months is probably too fast. I'm just wasting time with too much planning. That's no good. So this, yes, it's an art. Okay, fine. But you see, I'm trying to get reality signposts in from the year, and then this kind of like 100-day rough thing I made up. I have no data to back it up, and just like that should be our planning style. And now again, it feels good. It's like, yeah, because we're planning in a rhythm that feels good with a rationale that feels useful and right. Now it's not just like, it's the beginning of the quarter, time to plan. It's like, oh, I'm in the middle of this. Like, right? That doesn't sound, that just feels artificial. And yet doing nothing is obviously bad. So that's my way of trying to be organic with the team.
Right.
Trying to like respect reality, but not just say never plan. And so that's my whole thing.
Hey, I'm gonna make a shift from the 30,000-foot view that we're at right now to more tactical, if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
If you were, let's just say you're starting a new business today,
Ugh.
what are the 3 to 5 foundational rules that you would absolutely follow because you know they would help you acquire customers faster, grow faster, and position for sale better?
Wait. Okay. Wait. Say those.
Thr
Which ones? Sale better? Wait. Which ones again?
acquire customers faster,
Okay.
grow faster, right, which is
Yeah.
more stability,
Yeah.
and position for a sale better. So there's a lot of times, like when like inside of my portfolio, we have companies that they're all built to sell, but they're not necessarily sellable, right?
Well,
Because
but you said
yeah,
start a new company that's ready to sell.
start a new company, and what are 3 to 5 foundational rules? Because you've built
No,
multiple
no, I get
companies.
all that, but what I'm getting at is, what in the first year, I'm not thinking about how to structure it to be good for a sale. But like, if I haven't thought about that and done it by year 3 or 5, then I have a problem. See what I'm
Perfect.
saying?
Okay, perfect. And different
Like,
than the way
for
we do
example,
it.
one of the things to get ready for a sale is you can't be required to run it, right?
Yeah,
Everyone
exactly,
knows
which
that.
means that you have to be creating systems in place so that you could put somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah. But
in your
but
shoes, which,
but
by
it
the way,
but in
I
year 1, I'm not doing that because I'm figuring out what the hell we even are, and I'm not documenting things. I'm not making repeatable systems because I know almost everything I do is not quite right, and so it's a waste of time to try to build, like, even write down systems that I know half will change. That's rework that I don't have time for if it's new. So this is what I'm saying, like, there's time frames, and I know you also have some thoughts about like a different scales, different things, and this is one of them, right? Like, so
Yep.
to me, like the 0 to something, let's maybe it's a time frame. I'm not thinking about those things, but again, like I have to transition to that because eventually enough time passes where it's very bad that I didn't think about those things, right? So, um, so I guess if I would take it in turn, at the very beginning, I'm thinking, is this viable at all? Which of course everyone's thinking. Everyone thinks it, but man, so few people really actually do customer interviews in a structured way, not just yapping at people. Half of it's a sales pitch instead of actually testing theories, which is what you should do. Again, I know I keep saying this, but I have a well, actually, I'll plug something different. I wrote a book. It's called Hidden Multipliers. Obviously, I'm not promoting it heavy, or I wouldn't have waited an hour and a half to even mention it, right? So I'm not trying to over promote, but you can get it at hiddenmultipliers.com. Yay. Now I say that because there's a chapter in there about it. It's exactly how I interview customers, my whole system and how I did it, W Engine, how we used that stuff, how we interpreted that. So okay. Nevertheless, I'll tell you what it is anyway, because you don't need to go buy the book. I'll tell you anyways. Well, I'll just skate by it, and if you want to go into detail, I'll go into as much detail as you want. But it's basically you set out, what am I trying to learn? What theories do I already have about the world? The customers like this. Here's their inciting events that'll make them come here. Here's the language they use to talk about this. These are sites they go to learn about all these theories. I write down what I actually think. Then I ask myself, what questions could I ask that is open-ended and not leading the witness that would test the theories? So let's say I have a theory like, oh, I think people say my blog. And then that's my theory. Like that's what they call their website, is a blog. But
Okay.
then let's say I'm talking to a customer. I can't ask, do you call your blog a blog? That's a weird leading question, right? I want to say like, hey, when you say, tell someone to go to your like domain, go to your thing. What do you say? Like literally, what do you tell them? Go to, what do you say? And they might say, I say, go to my website. I might say, oh, I have articles online you should read. They may say, go to my blog. See, I asked a question that was open-ended, allowing them to fill in the actual answer that didn't lead the witness. But if
Okay.
70% said blogs, there you go, I'm correct. Maybe there's two things that are really common. And you go, oh, some people say my company homepage. Some people say homepage. Some people say blog. Oh my gosh, I can segment my customers. I'll have some ads for that. You see, it's already telling you stuff as well as validating. Okay. So those questions, and that's how I run the interviews. I ask these non-leading open questions. And then, of course, I'm going back after every interview and wondering, should I update my theories? Right. And so hopefully I'm iterating over my theory. So I call this the iterative hypothesis method. I'm iterating over my hypotheses, which I suppose in aggregate is my theory. And then either I'll find, I can't find, they're not like coalescing on anything. I'm just hearing shit everywhere. It's not, and that means it's not validated. You're not settling on a thing. Not that 100% of people say, obviously, but like enough. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so bored of hearing. I asked this question. I already know what they're going to say. There you go. That means you've learned something, isn't it? And now maybe you've established some things. This obviously won't prove your company works, but you asked like what I would do. This is what I did with WP Engine. That's why I was able to say, here's what I did.
Yeah.
And again, I did this with another company, Idea, which I ended up not doing. Anyway, so one of the things I would do early is I would do that. I would not only have the idea of however I got it, but I would go do this method to interview customers. Another objection I hear is, I can't talk to customers because I don't have a product yet. And what I would say is, once you have a product, you still don't know how to talk to customers, do you? Like you just said, I can't find them, I can't talk to them. Okay, well, building some shit in Visual Studio doesn't change that, does it? Like, go find them. And so I also have an article that is public about lots of ways of doing that when you have no product and no brand. Like, how do you find people, anyways? I feel like I'm just like plugging stuff, but the thing is, I've just written for so many years. Some of the stuff I have. Anyway, so that's one of the things I would and did do, and I still would do. Um, and of course, I would prototype fast. I like an MVP, although I don't like MVP, the acronym, because minimal sounds, or minimal sounds nice. I have minimal travel accessories that I like, because minimal sounds like well designed, and it is no frills, and you may not want it, but if you don't need a lot of features, then it's really nice. That's more minimal, not minimum. Minimum sounds like it's just shitty, which it is. Most MVPs are shitty. So instead, I like but there's some things about MVPs that I like. I mean, the concept that I like it has to be simple and small because you have to be able to build it. Um, and you need feedback. That's obviously true, and so forth, because you can only get so far by interviews, as much as I like them. Um, so I have a thing called SLPs, or SLC, which we call slick, simple, lovable. That's a big difference between most MVPs. Customers don't actually like it's like garbage, and complete. And what I mean by complete is, of course, it's not going to do very much, but what it does, it actually does it. So, like a classic example is something like uh like Snapchat, right? It
Mhm.
was it just like get chat and it disappears. That was it. Now, over years, they did like a million features. That's right, you still can, but like the first thing was just you chat, but it's not saved. So that's complete. That is a product. It may not be a very big product, but it's complete, and people really liked it. You know, the design was good. Like they were like it's just so nicely designed, which might be easier if it doesn't do anything. You know? So simple, lovable, complete is what I do. So I would do the interviews. I would do something slick, and for my initial product. Um, I guess nowadays I would do something AI. I almost hate to say that because, as I said, I'm not like a big that, but I do believe that if you're starting fresh now and the product doesn't leverage it in some way, it's hard to imagine why it'll be relevant in 5 years when other products that do leverage it are doing shit that your product cannot do. The
Right.
exception there would be if your non AI thing can do something that AI either couldn't or wouldn't, or it's something like that. Um, that's awesome. Like that could be a great strategy that's permanent because while everyone's running through AI, if you have some reason why quote unquote not AI in this case is actually better for some segment of the population, I love that strategy. Love it. So if I could find that, I would actually like that because it's differentiated. But you know, perhaps it's hard to find what those things are. So that's how I think about AI. You have to have some philosophy about AI. You can't just say I don't know. That can't be your AI strategy. It's either yes, and here's how I'm leveraging it, or no, because look at how my strategy is unique and desirable because I'm not. Either of those are acceptable, but just like I didn't think about it is not an acceptable strategy. So I would have one of the other strategy about AI. Um, so those are some of the things I would do at the very beginning to try to get the sucker off the ground and have something that I think would actually work.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
let's not go off of AI for a second there. I think that there's a place for AI no matter what in any site, any company, and I'm not a big AI fan.
Well, there's not
Um,
though.
what's that?
There's not.
But so let's argue that because I think there is,
Okay,
and
there's
and
a luxury, restaurant, I just want people and I don't want any robots
that's
doing
an
that.
easy one. Got it. I
Well,
got
I'm
it.
saying,
So
there's,
a luxury restaurant. So I'll tell you, the way we
consultants, like, you don't want me using AI to answer any of these questions, even if the AI is looking at my own writings. So
yeah.
anything human? No.
Right, but you're using it you're thinking about AI from, from a different standpoint. So, so to give you for your example, luxury restaurants, um, AI would be wonderful. And by the way, again, I'm not a proponent of just using AI. I have more arguments with AI than anything. I think that when the robots take over, I'm gonna be one of the first people who they take out because of how many times I've cursed at AI. However, with that said, with the luxury restaurant, like I would want my team sitting there in front of ChatGPT and communicating with it so that they become better communicators with my customers. Oh, we do that all the time in each one of our companies. And it's made people better communicators because they've been able to figure out, well, I asked ChatGPT a question or Claude or whatever, and it gave me the wrong answer. So now I have to become better at asking this machine a question, which makes me a better question asker, which means that when I'm talking to people, I'm a little bit more clear on the way I communicate.
So I was saying, like, for a software company, actually probably needs to just so that you have features that don't just get trounced. But I could imagine cases where no, but it better be you better have a really clear again, the whole strategy better work around that. Here's exactly why the answer is no. Here's why my customers like it the way I'm seeing it. Reasons, right? Like, and so if you have a whole thing around that about
Yeah.
why it really isn't, that's great because you'll be differentiated from all the people who don't realize that. So I love it. But I'm just saying, like, I would doubt it. Most won't be like that. I think. So I doubt it, but it's possible. Other areas are stuff like anything having to do with human achievement, like sports. Like AI has been better than humans at chess for 25 years, and we do not care. We do not watch computers play chess. We love watching. There's never been, and never been, more people playing chess or watching people play chess or watching content about chess or books and other uh, uh, tutorials about chess ever than now. Now, when
Yeah.
when robots are better than us at it, why? Because it's human. It's a game. It's a sport. It's human. That's we're here for the humans. So anything where we're here for the humans, not that AI has no role, but we're not here to see a computer do it, right? So like when I go on YouTube looking for, like, I don't know, review about a roller bag, right? Like, there's so much AI stuff. I don't want to see a single thing because I don't care. Even if it's so-called accurate, I just don't care. I want to see some human being who has a biased opinion tell me about it. That's what I want. I just never. Now maybe we'll die off and the kids will want AI just saying it. I don't know, but in sports and chess that has not been the case.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean by, like, I can see there's pockets where I don't believe that we want AI, even when the AI is already better. We still don't want it by our behavior, but it's in pockets. Like, some people develop their own film, but it's in pockets. So like, I get it, but if you can do that, that might be a great strategy.
So you're talking about specifically AI in the product
Yep.
itself, but chess players, my guess, even though they're playing more chess, they're probably playing against AI to become better at
Not
playing against
not real
people.
chess players, but people who are not serious. Yes.
Oh, really? I'm listen, I
No.
haven't I used to love chess when I was younger.
No.
I haven't played it for a while, so I don't,
No.
certainly not since AI came out.
No. Because the bots are dumb, and they don't act like a human. And so if your goal is to be good at chess against humans, like, actually doesn't help.
That
Now
makes sense.
if you're terrible at chess, like, you can do whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, people who are serious, no. Now, do they use the chess engine to learn? Absolutely. Wait, why was this thing wrong? What happens if I do? Oh, for that they use the AI constantly for analysis.
Okay.
Yes, but to just play against a bot, and you don't need to, because there's literally 100 million active users on chess.com. Like, why would you play a bot when you could play, like, really good chess players of your level instantly right now? Like, there's no point in playing a bot, really, um, if you're trying to be good. Anyway, so
Yeah.
uh, so that's how I think about getting started. In terms of selling, I do have some. I don't. I mean, they're not unique, I don't think, but they're maybe not usual things about selling. So first of all, or maybe here's the main thing. Um, I believe that trying to do things like, quote unquote, build a company so you can sell it, um, is the wrong way to structure the company. Because if that doesn't happen, if that eventuality does not come to be, what the hell? Have you sub-optimized everything else? Have you closed all the other doors? And I have seen, I mean, not necessarily, right? But I've seen the answer be yes. I've seen people like, oh, this is a DevTools company. It uses rational software. We're going to build this and IBM will buy us. And then IBM doesn't buy you. And then you have the company that's not very good and nobody else wants to buy it. And you don't know what to do with it. And it's hard to run it. And just, you don't have options because the one thing you had in mind didn't happen. So you've closed down by accident these other options. Or you've overinvested in stuff that, like, you never needed to do that. The sale never happened. Like, you just could have been building a better company. So my attitude has always been, um, you should build a great company, and I'll define that, because then you've maximized all the potential outcomes, like selling. And if you sell on better terms, because let's not forget, just getting the sale is one thing, but terms could be a 3x or even 10x difference in what you actually get at the end of the day. So just,
Right.
there's the sale, and then there's like what, right? Um, and I know you know that, but so selling, or pivoting from bootstrap to venture, or it was venture funded but now it's not, and you buy them back, or you end up leaving, and it runs, or you end up bringing in another partner because reasons, and whatever that looks like afterwards, or the employees actually start owning more of it, and raising up while you go do stuff and they send you checks. I've seen that happen a few times. Um, uh, or the range of companies that could buy you, and for what reasons. So if you build a genuinely good company, it's not, you will maximize the chance that some of these things could happen. And the genuinely good company is just the obvious stuff. A company that's growing, faster is better, that's profitable, or it's at least unit profitable. It's clear how it will be at scale where it is now. Uh, Employees love working there, as evidenced by they stay. Customers like the product as evident, and they like paying for it as evidenced by they stay, or better yet,
Right.
and grow. Right? Um, like this isn't rocket science stuff. Gross margins improving unless it's already great. Um, so uh, of course, that's what it means to have a good company. Like this is, So if you focus on those things as opposed to quote unquote getting sold, or or what it looks like to get sold, you will build the best company you can that maximizes the ability to run it forever because it's healthy and stable, and people like being there, and it's profitable, so you can whatever,
Right.
or sell, or that your time frame's not constrained because it's a healthy company that gives you more options. All the things are just better. I'm not assigning actual probabilities, obviously. I'm just saying they're all better than they were because you built a good company, as opposed to I'm building it to sell, but it's too hard to get customers. I'm just going to build tech and try to sell the tech. Totally fine. You do you. I'm just saying that's way less likely to get sold,
Yeah.
right? Than if you have a company. Um, or even if they acquihire it. Okay, but if you have a company with even 100K in annual revenue, they're gonna have to acquihire you and first give you like $1 million to give up the company and then acquihire it. So that's an extra million. For just to quote unquote buy the stuff. So again, you didn't do it for that reason per se. It's just if you try to build a company that's a real company and a good company, healthy company, it's just worth more. And so it's more interesting for everyone to do. Now, of course, there's other tactical things like eventually you can't be necessary to run the company, or else not, or it's not sellable. You don't say it's profitable when you're not being paid what you would be paid in the open market for doing this job,
Of course.
not just the job you quit, because you
Mhm.
quit the job being a marketer here, a developer there. Not only should the company be paying you that, but you're the CEO of a company that has 1 million in revenue or 10 million in revenue. What is that CEO being paid? Are you being paid that? So you're not quote unquote profitable until that happens. Now that's okay. Like, don't worry about it. Just don't say you're profitable. You're not. And when you think about, is this ready to sell?
Right.
Because it's profitable. It's not if you're not, it's okay, but it's not if you're not counting that. So just make sure you're not fooling yourself. But after that, the tactics are probably pretty obvious and easy to get anywhere, right? Like your finances should be pretty clean. Ideally, it's audited. If you're small, like maybe that's too much, or you could have a very lightweight audit, like an independent freelance financial person, or virtual CFO type of audit. That's okay. If it's like 10 million plus, you probably do want to have a more serious audit, because the acquirers will, and also because at some point you could argue when, in fact, you probably have a very good number, maybe 50 million, uh, maybe 10, but certainly 50, you simply will lose track of what the hell's going on with money if you don't have clean financials. And an audit's probably necessary for everyone in the company to feel like we are on top of the financials, right?
Right.
Um, but even in a small company, I've seen it where like there's 2 founders and 4 employees, and one of the founders was embezzling for like a year and a half, and the other one didn't know. So I'm not saying that means you need heavyweight audit, right? Of course, you have to right size it, but no audits of any kind. mm, you know, I mean, not in the first six
Very.
months, right? But like at some point, you're negligent for
Yeah.
yourself and the company if you're not doing something. So things like financial audits, things like getting your metrics in order, like you're saying, some of these processes documented. But again, before you're scaling, that doesn't make any sense because you're still figuring out who are you, what are these things. But once you're scaling, and of course everything's then breaking, and you're fixing them and you're hiring, that's where, without processes, without checklists, without documentation, without it's like impossible to scale because like it's impossible for people to onboard or do their job. So at that point, you need that, and that's also going to help you sell, to have all these run books. This is something where I actually feel like this is radically changing right now, even for myself and what I do for my own private projects, because AI works when you document the hell out of what you want it to do.
Fascinating.
And you can help, AI can even help you write what it is that you want the AI to do. So like in Claude Code, I'm usually like, okay, we're going to need to make a plan for this, and here's a sentence or two of what I want. Then it makes a whole plan. Then we edit but I didn't say all that. It got 70% right, not 100. It's not autonomous, but close enough that we're okay, blah 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 blah, and now it's good, and now it goes, and all of a sudden it's hot. And if it's a temporary thing, then of course you throw it away. But if it's not, if it's a project forever, that goes into this project file, whether it's Claude or whatever, and and it continues to be updated as you continue to change the architecture. It keeps it up to date, and you have this beautiful documentation. Even though, in this example, I'm a solo developer with a product that no one else is even seeing. There's not even another
Oh,
customer for it. So in a previous era, I would never write any documentation for it. What are you talking about? And yet here I have better documentation than I've ever written, ever. Okay, maybe except for the main platform of WP Engine, because with hundreds of people and 10 years, like of course we have a good, so I'm exaggerating a little, but like some of the best documentation I've ever written, for every little stupid thing. What? So I feel like actually Claude Code, and I'd say that, I mean, I just happen to use that, but whatever, AI generally, it's changing what I just said about process and documentation. So I actually think if you're not using stuff like Claude Code or something like it for everything, like as just a person, you are really missing out.
yeah, and
And
I'll second that.
yeah,
That is the only one that I personally spend time on.
yeah,
Like ChatGPT, we may ask a question here and there too, but I think it's not so cavemanish compared to Claude
yeah,
Code in terminal mode, obviously.
yeah. Well,
You know,
and so especially if you kind of have this meta idea of what you need to do in Claude Code to make it good for you, when like I have a skill called JSON. And the skill says like, whenever I say me or my book or my stuff or my, then this, and it's a dossier on me, right? So then when I say something like, um, how would I? Oh, I want to ask this. I want to ask this book designer to or cover designer to design a cover for my book. Here's his website. Draft me an email. And because I spent the time before, it
right?
knows what my book is. It already read that. It knows the table of content. It knows so now it's right, but it wouldn't have had I not done that, even in Claude Code. Certainly some chat client with no context would never know. So when you take the time to put people in there with their dossier, I did that with you. Um, and then it helped me like understand how better to do the podcast. So like one of the reasons why I
Yeah.
knew that you have like 5 levels of what is your revenue and what changes is because I did that, and I don't have someone working for me to do that, but I've previously made skills that help me be better informed. That's why I can be better. So like as a human being, like I'm not even talking about writing code, although definitely that,
Yeah.
definitely. But I'm not even talking about writing code. I'm talking about just being a human, going on a podcast, wanting to be prepared, because I would like to be prepared for you and have a better podcast. Um, uh, 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 I knew you like metrics, so I thought I'd probably talk about the framework, make sure it's cached into my own brain, so that I can be better for you. And um, so uh, so if you're doing that for yourself, of course, also projects you're sharing with other people, then I take it back that later on when you scale, you're gonna make a process. I take it back with AI. Now, without AI, of course, it would take so much time, it would change of stuff. But what AI has done is taken the time and not only crushed it down to so little that you kind of have no excuse, but actually, if not only is it so easy to make a plan, the AI can then automate a lot of it for you. So it's even faster. Wait a minute. So it's faster to make the plan, and then having the plan, it's faster, especially because it compounds, like I'm saying. So it compounds as you make plans, so the AI can help more and more. So can the human, because the human can read the damn markdown file too. Like this is great for everyone, right? And so and who knows what the future models will do? I don't know or when, but what I do know is having written it down in a markdown file, whatever they can do, like they'll have the context to help me, So I'm helping my future self, even though I don't know what the future's like, which feels real good. And yet it's
Yeah.
useful today. Okay, that's perfect. That's just what we want. Things that will definitely be good for the future, no matter what it brings, but also useful today. That's ideal. And so that Claude Code with encoding your stuff in things like MD files and skills and whatever, that is doing that. And um, so therefore, I guess all your processes will be documented on day one, and you'll be faster. And so I take it back about the scaling, and that's what you does.
Yeah, I don't there is absolutely nowhere near enough time inside of this podcast to talk about
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Claude Code. And again, I'm not a big AI fan, but Claude Code is the one that I am geeking out over,
Mhm,
and I've spent part of every single day for quite a while creating skill sets and creating a DNA on myself and
mhm,
and scrubbing the internet for videos that I've created in order to improve my DNA, like literally to
mhm,
create a brand profile, which is many, 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 many pages long. I've not read the entire thing, but Claude Code built it on me, and it builds it on my competitors, and it
Mhm,
builds it on anybody that I want to aim it at online,
mhm.
because they could pull all of their content
Yep.
and then help me to understand how to communicate with that person better, or
Yeah.
how to or learn anything about them or that type of an audience. So it's giving us a massive amount of insight. And again, we shouldn't even open up this
Yeah.
pocket of worms, because I think it takes us off.
No, but you know what would be fun is, I know there's 1,000 of these, but I mean, it's fun to share like, "Oh, this skill worked well." I know it's kind of not really the thing, and again, I'm not an AI expert, so I'm not claiming to know jack about that. I'm, I don't know if expert's the right word, but at least everything else here is something I've, built over a lot of time and have experience with, so there I'm at least justified in having some opinion. In AI, I'm really not. I'm just a person trying to do it, and, it's helpful, so I don't know. Maybe that's not so interesting, but, yeah, let's not open the can of worms, of course, but uh, uh, yeah, I think I've actually been meaning to share some of my skills, in part just because it's nice to give it away to anybody. I don't care, and in part because maybe I'm surely other people have better, adjustments, and they, maybe they'd share it back, and like that'd be nice, So that might be fun, but the point being, you should be using AI, and that doesn't just mean chat. I mean, it can for like quick factual things or something like that, but,
Yeah.
um,
Listen, I'm gonna bring this back around to business, but
yeah,
I just wanna clarify something that you said, because this audience is not an AI audience for
yeah,
the most part. So you're talking about skills, which are a massive asset, which separates Claude Code from ChatGPT, or any kind of AI that actually has a skill base. What skills are is a very clear definition. I'd love for you to give a better definition of this. My layman's term for this, for somebody who doesn't know computers like you do, is a skill is a very thorough definition of how to do something.
yeah,
So if I want to do some copywriting,
mhm,
um, I've written many years ago. I used to write a lot of copy. I'm not a copywriter by any means, but
mhm,
I have skill sets inside of my Claude Code that are very well built, so that when I want to write copy, it could take my voice, all of my personality profile and my DNA, and then write it based on my copywriting skill set.
right. Yeah, exactly. I actually have that too, because I don't want AI to write my words because, I guess I didn't say this at the top, but, like, I've been writing for 20 years. I did say writing a book called Hidden Multipliers. But I take that really serious. Like, it's only long form. It tries to be in depth, like the things we talked about today. I try to do my best work. So I don't want AI writing it, because the whole reason I have 65,000 people in a newsletter is because they want to hear me and my voice and my style,
Yeah.
even if it's the same idea they've heard somewhere, they want my style. I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying some people like it for them. Yeah. So I don't want AI writing for me. But typos, that's dumb. Of course I want to find all the typos, and oh, the subject verb agreement nonsense. So of course I want to find that stuff, and AI can help with that. So of course I'm going to do that. Um, yeah, the way I'd say this is, imagine that you did open ChatGPT and you wanted it to find typos, because it's a super straightforward, like, sort of concept. So you're going to write something like, "Hi, I want you to edit my stuff. Um, here's what I want you to look for, and then I'm going to give you the text." And you type some things that you want it to look for, and then you paste in the text and you hit enter, right? What would you tell it to do? Find subject verb agreements. Find, if I say, if I'm saying you, but then I switch it to we, find that. Um, if I have any like duplicate words, or just any grammatical things, because it knows what grammar is, like anything that's grammatically wrong or a typo. If Here's an interesting one I put in mind. If it's a real word, but that doesn't quite mean what the context in context, it doesn't mean what I thought it meant.
Mhm.
um, I need you to flag that. So, for example, I'll give you a real example of something to flag for me. I had a sentence where it was like something about, technical support can, no, no, what did I say? Oh, yeah, your product, the customer's pain, your product can mollify their pain. That's incorrect, because it turns out mollify means to calm someone down and reassure them, all that, which is, I knew that, but it does not mean to fix it. It just means to calm them down, settle them down. But I meant, in context, it saw, and it was correct. I meant it solved their problem. It calmed them down, and, they made them happy because it solved it, not because it's going there, there. Mollify is there, there. So it found that, like, you don't mean mollify, you mean like resolve, or, they give, wow. So that's not just typos or grammar. And I want that. That's not, taking my voice away. That's me misusing a word. I didn't quite get the word
Yeah.
sense right. So, okay, so if you were making your perfect prompt, you would have some basic, you would have stuff like that in it, right? Who knows? You'd have all this kind of neat stuff, and then you'd also want it to format it in some way that you like. Okay, I want you to say, this is what I do, current text, and then like a few, give me a couple words ahead and behind the thing, and then bold the thing, and then say proposed, and again, a little before, and bold the thing, so I can kind of see what you're visually see what you're saying, and then tell me, explain like why is this exactly wrong? Give me some suggestions, right? So again, if you were making your perfect prompt, you'd spend like an hour, and what you do is you'd run it on your your thing, and you'd see its output. You're like, wait, it didn't quite do that, and you tweak the prompt. Like if you were really working on it, you do all this stuff to make it like amazing, and you'd say, gee, I wish I could save that sucker, because every time I edit anything, I want to just say like, edit that with all that great stuff I thought of, and so you can think of a skill as doing that. It's saving this like perfect prompt. Okay, perfect's in quotes. You're saving it so that anytime you can just call it up now quick. And also, of course, over time you'll notice, oh, uh, wait, it didn't catch this, or it didn't say, or wait, it's saying this and this isn't even right. It's doing it. Wait, I got to tell it not to do that, right? And so you'd want to go back to your this super prompt and edit it, right? And they go tune it over time, so it just gets better and better, and it's simple to reuse. So
But you
that's what a
don't have to
skill
do
is.
that. You literally just tell, if you're in Claude Code, you say,
Yes.
update the skill set so that you never do this again.
Well,
And it just says, okay, thank you.
yes,
Did it.
now we're getting to why Cloud Code plus skills is so good, but just a skill alone, you can think of it as saving the perfect prompt so that you can easily use it and you can refine it. So over time, the prompt just becomes insanely good. Um, and skills are useful everywhere. You can use skills in not just Cloud Code, but there's like a bazillion tools, and they all use the same skill format. So this is
Mhm.
again different from you just like copying and pasting prompts, which is just annoying. But another reason it's better than you copying and pasting is all these different tools can use it. Okay, so that's kind of nice. So if you make a big library of these things, it's nice to know that, well, maybe you want to use Cloud Code, or maybe you switch to the other thing, maybe you want to try da, 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 da. You can take them with you. Oh, that's nice. Now another thing is all these tools, um, if you have, let's say, a dozen skills in there, it can automatically pull out skills that it wants as you ask things. So this is what I was saying, like, so I have a me dossier, right? So when I say
Mhm.
my book, it just knows to go pull out that skill. I didn't have to say, quote unquote, go use the skill. You can,
Right.
but you don't have to. So you're just kind of making it smart about the things you want to make it smart about, and with this like tunable. So this now you're starting to see why it's like, oh, okay, that's better. It's still just files. You could copy and paste it, but this is better. And then with Claude Code is another layer on top, because now Claude Code can meta help you. So just as you say, this is what I do. I'll tell Claude Code, hey, so the skill, hey, this skill, it told me this. And I literally just paste what it did. Here's here's the output. But here's my paragraph. And I think blah. And it'll go, oh, and it'll go propose a change to the skill for me for how to change it, right? So this is where it gets real powerful. I don't even have to go in and figure out, well, how am I going to tell this LLM what to do? This stupid LLM. It will, I just have to say like, "Meh," right? It'll go propose what to do. So, or- so that's where you start really, really getting a lot of speed, because how did I start that skill? By saying, hey, make a skill that's like you're a really good high level editor, but you're doing line editing, because that's a real word, that's meaning. Write out what that stuff is. So right off the bat, there's like 200 lines. It's pretty good already. It's already pretty good, And then it's like, right, okay. And then I ask it, what else do you think should be in here? And it like proposes some more stuff. It's like maybe you like half of it and the other half you don't. Look how
Yeah.
so you already are like, God, this amazing prompt is way better than the shit you would have written. And then you go from there, right? You're like, and so so that's where the Claude Code part comes in. Not only are these skills, but oh my gosh, you have this brain that's good at writing skills. Oh, oh my goodness, right? Like now, oh, now I'm really going fast in making all these different skills, and you just kind of never stop thinking of stuff. I have a dossier one too, just like you said. So at the top, it's like, here's their email, here's their all their socials, here's what they're working on, here's the kinds of stuff, here's what. And I have a neat one in there, which is find things that make them like that make them special and stand out that they're kind of known for or that they like talking about. That's like their things, and it'll like here's 7 things that are like kind of their things. That is so freaking cool. And if you go to their blog, you can't see that because you're just seeing like the last few things that they wrote.
Yeah.
You just can't. It's like it's so cool. And so um uh so you just like product research. For me, when I research a product, I don't care about price. I do care about quality. I don't want to hear about top 10 lists. I only want quality review sites that are like known to be good. So I said all that and it's like, oh, okay, well, here's like a list of 15 known really good sites like Wirecutter and all, right? So again, here's this insane thing that goes and researches a product with my specific things of what I like about products generally, my constraints or lack of constraints, where it's going to go get reviews and from not just searching the freaking web, right? Which is what LMs are trained on. So that's definitely wrong. Or Google, that's
Yeah.
all sponsored, you know. And so it again, it makes this incredible dossier. I'll say, like, put a picture next to it and tell me what people say they like about it. Tell me what they don't like. Tell me what, like, a lot of people say it's bad in this way, but if you don't care about that, and tell me the dimensions. Like, go look at the. It's insane. And so, I know I just went on and on. We said we weren't going to talk about AI, but like, so a skill is as simple as it's a good prompt. But oh my gosh, once you save them, once you can just use them easily, once Cloud Code's helping you write them better, like every time you buy anything, you're just like, "Oh, make me a like that." And it's like, this is crazy.
Okay. So listen, we have to change the topic, but before we do, AI, like, it's very difficult to stop talking about this.
Yeah,
So we will have all of our customer support calls. They've transcribed for years.
sure.
All of our customer support emails, drop that into Claude Code. So we have skill sets built for customer support.
Right.
And they're not basically for our customer support or
Yeah,
to
yeah.
improve customer support. They're to help us improve our sales, our copywriting, our
Amazing.
how we react to people, to understand our audience better, to understand our target avatar better. Which in most companies they're guessing at their freaking target avatar anyway. We also record all of our team meetings, and we have for many, many, many years. So we have all those recordings that Claude. These were audios, and Claude taps into our whisper flow and automatically transcribes all of that, puts it into a folder, and then gives us a breakdown of the people on our team, the way people reply, the way we run the meetings, the way everything. So all of these little things can be loaded up to improve the efficiency, I think, in almost every single company.
Yeah.
Also, every like inside of Claude Code, you could build, which we have, a folder on every employee
Mhm.
inside of each one of our companies, so that we're learning about them, how to communicate with them better,
Oh, that's
right?
nice.
What they like, how to
Yeah.
build a better bond with them. When it like it's very important, I think, at a very, very surface level, to understand when everybody's birthday is, when their husband or their wife's birthday is, when their kids' birthdays are, so that we understand about them. But with AI, we can actually understand to such a deeper degree
Yes. Yeah.
how to communicate with our team,
Yeah.
to create a bond with them, which far exceeds anything that we've ever been able to do in the past.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
I'm not even an expert on it, but just using it
no.
like a complete noob, just doing what I was saying, just completely changed how I just do normal stuff. And I didn't even talk about code, which I also do, and it's really cool. But like, I'm not even talking about that. It's called
Yeah,
Claude
I don't know
Code, but
anything
like
about code.
it's misnamed.
Yes, and it totally is. It
Yeah,
absolutely is.
it's good at
Well, it
code,
was
but
originally
yeah,
built for code.
yeah.
That's why.
All right.
Okay, so from a business standpoint, I have one final business question, and that is, when do you know it's time to get funding? How do you get funding? You've done it. I don't know how many times you did it in the past with other companies,
Yeah.
but with WP Engine, I think you did it at least twice. Correct?
Oh, multiple times. Yeah, we raised 5 rounds, including a big $300 million round. So yeah, plenty. Um, but then it's my fourth company, and all the other three are bootstrapped. So I'm both experienced in and sympathetic to many ways. So to me, the answer to that is the default answer is don't raise money. And then the question is, but when should I?
Yeah.
So, uh, so if any of these gates fail, the answer is don't. So how do we know what the gates are going to be? I mean, some things like it's going to be a big company, like obviously something like that, right? Um, the bad reason, that is, I think the typical reason, is I need to quit my job so I can work on this. I know that, but that's, no one will give you money for that. That's not a reason that anyone will give you money. So that's not a reason. It has to be some other things.
Yeah, but people have come to us many times to get funding,
Yeah.
with that being
Right.
the main reason why what they're
Right.
going to spend their money
So
on.
if that's the reason, just forget it. Go back to the first thing, which is the default answer is don't raise money, right? Do it on the side. I know it's a lot of time. I did it for all of my other companies. I mean, I even went to I was working at a company, my first startup. I wanted to work on it, so I went to the company and I went to their corporate lawyer, and I added with the lawyer. I had the lawyer add a little note that just says, "I'm working on this thing on the side. It's not owned by the company. The company understands that I'm working on it. Also, I understand that, like, it cannot affect my ability to do my job. If it's even thought of, like, or it's even suspected, that is going to be an issue, because that's part
Sure.
of, like, the give and take of this, but that's the deal." And I had that written into my employment agreement with their lawyer. So you can totally work on things on the side. Now, I'm not saying everyone can do that. I'm just saying that I did it. I did do that. Okay, so um, uh, so y- um, what were you saying?
When to get funding and
When
how
you
to
get
get
funding, right?
funding.
Sorry. So you have to look at it from why does an investor want to invest in you? Because they want to make a big return on their money.
Mhm.
So they're going to give you money, and then they want like 100x. 100? Yeah, maybe 50. Wait a minute. Why that? Well, because a lot of the things won't work. It'll be a zero or a half or something. And so they need the few winners to really, really, really win in order to make up for all the ones that didn't, and also to make up for the risk profile of a VC. What I mean is, a lot of times VCs are like, "Oh, we returned the money." Wait, you held on to investors' money for 10 years and then gave it back? That means the investors lost money. That's
A
not
lot of money.
right. When you say 1x the fund after 10 years, that's the investors that's the LPs losing a lot of money, right? So not only do you have to, like, and how much more money do you have to give them back so that they're at least not losing money? Well,
Right.
whatever the net present value of dollars are, like probably 50%, or actually over 10 years, doubling, just period, right? Just to not lose money on, like, inflation and stuff. But it's worse than that, because the median VC loses money even in the 1x sense. Like, the median VC returns less than 1x of the fund. Median, half. Only the top decile return enough money that's not only um, enough money relative to the risk of this investment. So,
Yeah.
like, so even if VC returned, let's say, 2x and said that's pretty good, I would say no, because the risk profile is so high. I could have gotten 2x in a much safer, reliable way. But since the median VC returns less than 1x, I need the ones that succeed to return like 4 or 5x in order
Yeah.
to, and balance out, as an investor, balance out my own risk of this nonsense. Because you guys are so high risk, I need a high return. So rolling back, so that investors need the winners to not only make up for the losers, but make up for the risk adjusted returns that LPs need. So they need the whole fund to be 5x. That means they need the winners to be 50 or 100x. So that this, including the losers, the whole fund's actually like a 3, 4x. So that's just a long way of saying, so investors, this is why they behave the way they behave. Because of that, they need to know that every single thing they invest in could be a 50 or 100x result. They know they won't, but it had better have a chance. If it doesn't even have a chance, their profile will never work. Because then, even if they're even my winners only got a 7x, well, then you're screwed, right? So they need everything to potentially. So now that rolls back to you. When should you raise money? When you think your company could be 100 times more valuable than it is today, at the rate they would pay, which is more than when it's really valuable. Why? Because if they're going to give you $1 million and take 20%, that means your company's worth 5 million, which it's not, because you have 3 customers. So they're already violently overpaying from a financial perspective, which is okay. They know that, because what's the alternative? They take 90% of the company? That's ridiculous, right? They used to do that in the 90s, by the way. They stopped. So, okay. So they have to value your company at something like 5 million, 10 million, because, like, otherwise it's just the cap table makes no sense. But your company's not worth that. They need to be able to make 50 or 100x on that 5 million basis, which it's not worth. So they need your company to be worth $1 billion or more. Period. So the question is, do you think your company could be worth $1 billion someday? That's the if you can't say yeah, not that it will be because that's silly, but like that it could be, that it's very plausible that it could be. The answer isn't yes. You're not a candidate for raising money because that's what they want. That's what they need, I should say, because otherwise their portfolios don't work. How would a
Well,
company worth $1
are you
billion?
thinking about it as a specific dollar value,
Mhm.
that the people would be investing? Because, you know, an investor is not gonna put half a million or $1 million in expecting it to be $1 billion.
Yes, they do. No, their piece isn't $1 billion. They need the whole company to be worth $1 billion. Otherwise, they can't get 50x on their 1 million when you were at 5, except you weren't really at 5. You're really at
Hmm.
point 0.1. So they're already 50x behind just by giving you a million at 5, a million on 5. They're already like 50x behind.
Okay, so then when you're pitching,
Mhm. Yeah,
how are
so
you
let's back
pitching?
this out. So you need to believe your company can be $1 billion of value. Well, what does it take for that? Not in detail, not tactically. Like structurally, what does that mean? Big and growing market. Number 1. The market ain't big, they ain't no billion-dollar company. And growing, because if it's a stagnant or shrinking market, like by the time you get there, because how long will it take you? 5 years, 10 years? By the time you get there, a shrinking market, we're screwed. So big and growing market, number 1. Number 2, whatever you're doing, like a lot of people probably want it. How do you know? Well, that's gonna start depending. If you're forging a brand new market, nobody knows. That's part of the risk that investors taking. But it better be that if you're right, it's insane, like Uber, right? If they're right that Uber is going to work, then it's absolutely insane how big they could get. So okay, so it's a risk, but we understand there's an upside attached to that. The other way is it's a big and growing market now, and how do we know people are doing it? They're paying now. Customers right now are spending billions of dollars a year in this market. So of course there's a market. The question is, can we win in it? Okay, good, 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 good. That's like most the time. That's the question. Like that's okay. We'll take that risk. I mean, we want to know how and why you're different and what we're going to want to know. But like, of course, that's but just the fact that the budgets are already there is evidenced by they're spending the damn money on this in this area. Okay, that proves it. So okay, it's a large and growing market. People actually want to have this kind of pain or have this thing that they want to do. You've proven it somehow. Either the upside is enormous or they're doing it now. Um, you have to want to build a company for 10 years. You sure you want to do that? Now, do you have to stay? No. I'm just saying if you go in with the attitude you're not even going to want to do this, then you're lying. Like you're lying to the investor to say, I want to go build $1 billion company. Now, I say that, okay, you could have a plan. I have a co-founder. I'm great at the beginning. Co-founder wants to be CEO forever. I want to be the CTO from zero to whatever, and then I'll probably move on. But you all know all that at the beginning. And we're going to be hiring, a person who can take my place. Like we're going to hire really well so that makes sense. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, now we're back to good. Now we're back to good. You're not lying anymore. We're back to good. But something has to give. Like so there has to be some sort of situation where there's this nice, intentional, sensible way in which we're doing this for 10 years. That's what it's going to take to get to $1 billion and maybe more, but that's what it's going to take to get there. Um, and there's probably more stuff, but so these are specific things that need to be true. There's probably other things. The product's really that good. Like, how are you taking a bite out of this market that's already established? That's really hard. You better be different. And now, of course, the investor's taking a gamble. Will that differentiation really? Okay, but that's okay. That's the gamble they want to take. Will you be able to operate? Will the customers really do it? Okay, that's the normal risk, but is there a plausible way? Right now, there's a very simple answer. With AI, we can do feature XYZ. Incumbents cannot do XYZ, and structurally it'll be hard for them to get there. So therefore, we'll do it, and we'll get that on the basis of XYZ. Now, will that actually work? I don't know, but it's a very plausible, good pitch, right? Like, I might want some proof points because I know AI doesn't usually work. So I'd like to kind of know that that's actually happening before I want to invest because I know it usually doesn't. But okay, like we're on the right track, right? Because you have some explanation that I get. There's probably other things, but they're all going to stem from this question of you think it can be $1 billion company, and what will that take? So the little people stuff, little like market stuff, okay, right? And from here on, you could look online or even maybe use AI to ask like what are these questions you'd want to ask, or what does it take to be $1 billion? Okay, again, not tactically, not like I'll use AdWords, like not that level. right? Because many things will happen between now and then, but just structurally,
Right.
is it even possible? So, that's what you're kinda getting at, and so what are you pitching? Pitch is another, a question, but if you can't answer yes with, like, again, plausible, not likely even, but plausible, like, answers here, then don't raise money. Like, again, go back to, like, no, then don't do it. That's not what you wanna do, and that's not what they wanna invest in, and don't do it. Now, that's for institutional investors. Angels can be anything. They're angels that'll just do it because 'cause they're your friend and they don't care. So, like, angels are everything from don't care at all and won't ever talk to you again to what I just said, but they're a professional angel. And so, so angels, it's, I don't know. It's like it's super personal. And like, why does an ex SVP of marketing at Dell invest in something? I don't know. Like, so angels, I don't know, institutional, that's the story. And that's why that's the story. Um, Pitching is interesting. So this is something I have a lot of experience in pitching because I helped start Capital Factory, the local Austin incubator, and now many other things, co-working and many things. In 2009, we had classes of companies. We did pitch practice. They raised money. Of course, I've raised money myself. I've had people pitch me a zillion times. I've invested in 60 companies, so I've seen and done a couple of these. Um, and then we would have all these pitch practices and everything, and we'd have visiting VCs, and they would give advice. And like, I mean, I've just seen a lot of pitches and seen a lot of advice and stuff. One of the things that I learned was different investors want different things out of the pitch, and that sucks because it means there's not like the one perfect pitch. For example, I was in a meeting once with Mark Suster, who is another amazing VC and has written wonderful things about companies and VCs in general. Anyway, so I was in the same room, we were getting pitched, and the person starts by going like, talk about the problem. Every day this happens with them. And then, but so we made this. And I'm just like, I'm following. I like it. That's what I like. You're setting it up. Here's what we do. Okay, I'm following. And Mark just stops him. He's like, wait, stop. What are we doing here? Who are you? Who am I talking to? Like, you can't just jump in. Like, I don't know who you are. Why should I even listen to you? And he's like, oh, and so he runs over to the About Us page. And what I was thinking is, oh, I don't care who they are. I don't care if they went to school or not. I don't care where they went to school. I don't care if they have 20 years experience or not. I'm trying to get a sense of, do they have an interesting problem? Do they seem like they know what they're doing? Do they have an interesting solution? As I'm listening to this, there's the meta questions. Do they seem intelligent? They seem like they go get. Are they telling me things like we experimented with this and found that, which tells me that they seek and find rather than they think they know everything? Like, so I have some meta things I'm sort of assessing, and then there's the
Yeah.
product. I don't give a crap about their history.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, see? And, like, now at the end, okay, like, at the end, you can hit me with that. Or if your history is, like, part of why you're perfect for this. "Oh my gosh, I've had 20 years of experience in this field. That's why we're gonna," because the competitors, they're just like kids with tech. They don't know. So, like, we can have the same kids, the same tech, but they don't know any of this other stuff we do. Okay, now I wanna know about you, but that's because it's related to so I was like, so Mark and I were opposites. And of course, neither one of us is quote unquote correct. That's stupid, right? With styles. So that's just one example to make the point of, oh my gosh, you don't know how to pitch because everybody. So what I used to tell people is, make your deck so that you could jump to any slide and it's self-contained. So it shouldn't say as when you're talking, you can say like the previous slide, right? But don't the slide should just make sense so that when you're in the meeting, they're like blah 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 blah. You can just bounce around and you don't care, right?
Right.
Um, Second, you could ask ahead of time like stuff, and you could rearrange the slides because they're not dependent on each other. Third, y- put it in a narrative structure that you love because at least because if they don't interrupt you and they don't jump you around, you'll tell your best story, whatever that means to you. Like, I want you to be your best. That's going to be the best thing. Like, ultimately, Mark isn't going to invest or not invest based on that, based on whether the slide came first, right? He's not going to do that. So just be whatever is your best self in terms of the way you want to tell the story and do this thing, because that'll just put yourself in the best light. And it's okay if that's not a deal breaker. Um, so these are some of the lessons I took away from that I would then transmit to others about that. Other things like on the slide titles, say the thing you want them to know. If they didn't read anything else about the title, do not title the content. In other words, you don't say about us. You say team with 30 years of experience in this industry or whatever the salient, or,
Right.
two people who went to Stanford. Do you know how hard it is to get to Stanford? It's really hard. So like, that's good, right? So like, tell them, like, if they didn't read anything else, this would be a good takeaway. Not enough, because it doesn't
Sure.
say 100% of, but like, what's your best, most salient thing that you want them to get?
Yeah.
That's in the title. That's another like simple tip that like any structure of slides, any type of presentation for that matter, even like an internal sales presentation, it's what you want to do, right? Don't say we have our three features. Say, this saves you time, or um, so I have lots of presentation advice, but that's some very basic stuff. The titles are just a simple thing everyone should do, and the rest of it's specific to pitching. But just get out of your mind that you're going to make the perfect pitch. Make a pitch you love to give, where the slides are in fact jump aroundable, interchangeable. The truth is, if you get through your whole pitch and no one stopped you, that's a bad sign. They're not interested, they're not leaning forward, they're not asserting their dominance and being alpha whatever's. Like, that's actually a bad sign. Um,
I agree.
Not a deal breaker, but
1,000%.
it's a bad sign. Like,
Yeah.
you want to like wake the room up a little. Like, why are they not like telling you to jump to
Why are
slide
you
six?
not getting them excited enough to ask a question?
Yeah. And if they are making you jump around, instead of getting flustered about that, realize this is great. That means they're like engaged. They have these questions. They want to prove how smart they are. Don't forget that they have egos. They're trying to prove how smart they are too.
Yep.
So instead, don't be flustered. Be like, think like, oh, good. They're freaking engaged. Hell yeah. And since I've built my slides to be independent, I mean, yeah, well, let's jump around. I don't care. Like, so that puts you at ease. You've now have slides that are in an order and have a narrative, but it's also a tool now you can just like freaking roll with the punches, because like you've built your slides that way. So that's my the high level pitch slide advice.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I agree. Funding, like we're big into self-funding everything inside of my portfolio. I'm not against getting funded. We don't do it, but with that said, I've seen some amazing growth with companies that we've been part of from a funding standpoint.
Of course. I
So
mean, look, like everything in business, every piece of advice and these things, like you fun or not, there's always a 2 by 2. And one side is, did the opposite of the advice. The other side is, company succeeded, company failed. That's the other
yeah.
dimension. And all four squares almost always are full of examples. Right? So like, yeah, duh. So hence the question always rolls back to, okay, so that means everything depends. What does it depend on? Damn it. Like, that's always the question. So hopefully we have talked about that just now. Like, yeah, well, here's some guidelines about that, at least from my experience.
Hey, Jason, one last question. And this came from a very, very good friend of mine who is in the process of a sale. And I will tell you that when I sold my first company, it was, I don't know how it was with you, but for me, it was like looking into a closet that was completely dark. Like I didn't know what was
Yeah, of
next.
course.
It was the complete unknown from
Yeah,
somebody who was a diehard entrepreneur, busting ass every single day, to then thinking, well, I'm going to have money come in, but that's not what I was doing this for anyway. And
right.
now what am I going to do?
Mhm.
So give me an idea of what it was like for you exiting WP Engine. What's life like right now?
Well, this time was a lot easier. SmartBear was harder because I sold because I was burnt out, which is the wrong reason to sell. Um, and I um, and then though we had our baby pretty soon after. Sorry, I sold and then I left, and then we had our baby. And so it was like new baby time. So I was a stay at home dad for a while. So I was occupied with that. And then I was still younger, and so I was like 31, I guess. And And so these ideas came, I started poking around the WP Engine. Okay, so like I just sort of was in dad mode. Your brain's fried anyway there. I don't think you have time to think about what should I do. And I was writing during that time. That's part of why WP Engine existed. I know I already told the
Yeah.
story, but the point was, writing was something where it helped me stay intellectually connected to the world, but there's no deadlines, there's no rules, there's no freaking anything. So it was great actually, of like, I write when I feel like it and if I feel like it, and otherwise I don't. And like, actually it's pretty good. Um so um, but then at WP Engine, WP Engine, as you said, it was a very successful company. So as you can imagine, that worked out well for me in that sense. And so, um, but I'd also was at WP Engine for 15 years before I left. Okay, so I didn't leave because anything was wrong. It was just like, it's been 15 years. Like, there's not really any other reason, just time to not do it. Like, it's okay. Like, you know,
Yeah.
um, and so I was worried I wouldn't find something, but my wife kept saying like, the only thing you need to do is just like decompress and that's it. Like, you don't need to do anything. And so
Yeah.
some days I would do more things than others and whatever that means. Played the piano more, played some chess, not very well. Um, and, um, and they try to exercise. I did write some more, but not as much as you'd think, because a lot of times I was just like, I don't know, I just don't feel like it today, and so it was just like that for a while. Um, but I'm in a different place in my life, so I think, man, you can't tell what it's going to be like ahead of time because you don't know what it will be like, and you change over time. So even if you've done it before, like I did, the second that this time was very different than the last time. Many reasons, how much money do we have in the bank? How old am I? What's happening? Like my daughter's 16 now. We're like doing college visits. We spent a lot of time traveling and doing that, in part just to have a vacation together.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So I'm not writing as much as I could if we weren't doing that, but like what? Obviously I want to do that. So, and I don't think a certain person's experience translates to another's anyway. I guess the point is it's sort of like grieving, in that everyone does it differently, and that's okay. And no one can tell you
Right.
the right way to do it, and you yourself don't know the right way to do it. So you just have to sort of experience it, because like, what are you going to do with that? Maybe there's
Yeah.
someone you can talk to. Maybe that's a therapist. Maybe that's an other entrepreneur support group, and or group, and so forth. Like, these are probably good, constructive ways of just like talking it out. That won't solve it, but it'll that's probably healthy. Um, there's this interesting study from Credit Suisse. I say study, it really, they just really just interviewed like 20 people. It's not like, it's anecdata, and
Yeah.
almost all of them, like vast majority of them, had postpartum depression after. Not depression. Depression is like the the world. There's no point in living. Postpartum depression is like, who am I and what's my life like now? It's
Yeah.
not quite. Now you may have suicidal thoughts, but I mean, it's not the same thing. It's a specific kind of depression, and that's the kind that everyone had. So when they say it's like your baby, it's like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. I think I felt that when I sold my first company, and it was,
Yeah.
it's a weird place.
It's because it's your identity. It's who you
Yeah.
are. And even though, oh, I keep my business different, my identity, and I keep my bank account separate, and I have my friends and my employees, and they're not the same, or I mean, or at least
Not
there's
the
some.
same.
It's a Venn diagram anyway. And it doesn't matter that that. You do it, it's still your identity. Like, that's just what it is. I
Yeah.
have this thing I like to say, which is, you go to the barista and you ask, "Hey, who are you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm an artist." "What are you doing here?" "Well, I gotta pay the bills." Correct. That's correct. That is a correct assessment of what's going on. She is an artist. She is paying the bills. Few artists can pay the bills with art. Sadly, that'd be nice if there
Sure.
was more, but okay. You ask a founder, "Who are you?" "I'm the founder of this." "No, no, no. That's just what you do for work. Who are you?" "What?" I don't know how to answer that question. "I'm the founder of this." You see what I mean? Different. So when you sell it, like, it's who you are. So it's tough, and obviously different people will deal with it different ways and timelines. Some people find things like philanthropy and other kinds of things that are bigger than themselves and more important than making money to be a way to find something they're really passionate about and they can sink their teeth into, that's not another business. Um, some people, of course, start another business. Some people buy back their old business because the owners ruined it or
Ah,
whatever.
yes.
uh, some people, of course, invest or advise or write. Some people never find their way. It's and different timelines for all of the above. Now, none of that is a surprise, I suppose. But when you read the Credit Suisse and you read their words and everything, it becomes, uh, while that none of that is perhaps a surprise, when you read their actual stories, like it brings into relief of what that really can mean. And so, what should you do and on what time frame? Oh my gosh! Of course, no one can answer that for you.
Yeah. But but it's an interesting transition, and I highly recommend it for everybody. If it's right for them, and listen, I've got businesses that I don't ever plan to sell. I will either be with them forever or they will fade out.
Yeah,
And then I've got businesses that I would like to sell.
yeah,
at some point when the time is right. But
Totally.
I've been through it before,
Yeah.
so I already know what to expect. It's not my first time. My first time, it was scary.
Well, you say you know what to expect, but you're wrong
It's
because this
probably right. You're
because the
right.
second time you
It's
sell it
different
won't
every
be
time.
like the first time you sold it. It won't be like that
Yeah.
because
Well,
you've
it's
already
not it won't be the second time either. It'll be, so I've
because
done it a few
because
times.
you've already that was the first time. And now you're
Yeah.
much older, different perspective, different thing in life, different maybe different family stuff, I don't know. Um, and it's the second time and you went into it knowing that, blah, 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 blah. So no, you don't know what to expect. And neither do I. I don't know what you should expect either. But that is the point, actually. We don't
Yeah.
know the end. So we have to give ourselves some grace when we get there.
Yes.
you know, and realize, of course, that we're lucky from an intellectual perspective. We realize we're lucky to be in that position, happy to be in that position, good. And then in a real, and then emotionally realize like emotions don't care about intellectual things. So there we are. That's what it is.
Hey, Jason, we got to wrap.
Yeah,
I had such a good time talking with you. Thank you
yeah,
so much for coming. Hey, let's give one last time your the URL for your book, please.
yeah.
And by the way, I highly suggest everybody reads your stuff on LinkedIn. Um, you pop up on my LinkedIn every single day. I love it. There's nothing that you have ever written that has not sounded like something that I talk to my team about. It's not the bullshit guru things that are rah rah or
Yeah.
that are half baked or that sound like they come from a book that's an upsell for something else. All your
Right.
stuff on LinkedIn, completely free,
Mhm.
real tactics, real insight that CEOs discuss, not gurus. So I highly suggest that. But also, give your LinkedIn is just Jason Cohen, correct?
Yeah, it is. I guess I'm that old that I have Jason Cohen. Yeah, it is. And so, yeah, my website with all these articles I was talking about is asmartbear.com, bear like the animal, because my third company was called SmartBear when I started writing 20 years ago. So asmartbear.com is all these articles and all the socials. And then again, the book,
Okay.
yeah, and then the book is hiddenmultipliers.com, which are um, 10 patterns that I've seen where small changes result in like or small things you do result in big
Yeah.
changes in growth and in profit with the budget and team that you already have, like not involving investment. Um, so it's a lot. I mean, the kinds of stuff we talked about today. I mean, there's just a little overlap, but that's the point. Like, there's so much to say. But if you like this kind of thing or this attitude, well, okay, it's a whole book of it. Maybe you'll find some stuff that's useful.
Yeah. I don't know what's in the book yet, but I do know your writing style from LinkedIn, and I will say it's blunt.
Yeah,
Like it's in your face. It's the
yeah,
way you and I talk normally.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not I don't even know. It's not like regular, boring author stuff.
Yeah,
So
my goal was if you open to any part of the book and just start reading, it might not make complete sense because I mean, but you should say like, "Oh, that's kinda interesting," or like, "Oh, wait a minute." That's what I want every time. So there can't be any fluff where you'll just be like, "What the hell is this nonsense?" There's some story, but I don't care. But it's easy to see what my writing style is because I have literally hundreds of articles on asmartbear.com. So just look at that. That's it. It's like that. You know?
brother, thank you very much. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks.